Chapter 2072. Because in his opinion, even if he couldn't get first place, he would definitely be second place. He didn't expect that the second place would be snatched away by the eighth prince. And he was only third. Not only that, his number one general, the first slash, was also defeated. Damn it, I can't let that brat continue to be arrogant. The third prince gritted his teeth. In the second stage, I'll go all out to kill that brat and severely injure him first. I don't believe that old eight and that brat called Lin Xian can be so arrogant. The second stage would begin 3 days later. Therefore, everyone came out of the special space and returned to their own palaces to rest. As for the princes, they were making plans. They must get rid of that Lin Xian first. The third prince gritted his teeth. The first prince also made the same plan. As for the other princes, they said in a deep voice, "We must be careful of Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King." In the first stage, it was best for everyone to act as a group and not be alone. Especially not facing Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King alone. Plans appeared one after another. Most of them were guarding against Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. There was no other way. These two were the ones who won the first stage. Their strength was terrifying. No matter who it was, they wouldn't have any chance of winning if they fought alone. To deal with such peerless geniuses, they must work together to kill them. The eighth prince also said that our main enemies are the first prince and the third prince. In addition, we have to be careful of that sword 13. We should also act as a group and not be alone. Oh right, Brother Lin, if you were to face the Golden Lion King, how confident are you? Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the other geniuses all looked over. Lin Xian thought for a while and said, 50-50. He didn't know the specifics. After all, the other party should be hiding a lot of strength and ultimate moves. Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the other geniuses' mouths twitched. Even the eighth prince's eyelids were twitching. Because previously, during the first slash, Lin Xian said 50-50. Now that he was facing the stronger Golden Lion King, it was still 50-50. This made them very surprised. They even suspected that Lin Xian was still holding back. They had guessed correctly. Lin Xian had indeed held back his strength. He still had 2 powerful trump cards that he had yet to use. Especially if he used the Great Dragon Sword Soul, his battle prowess would increase in all aspects. Of course, Lin Xian did not let his guard down. He knew that as a genius of the war race, the Golden Lion King must be extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. On this day, the second trial was finally ushered in. The second stage was not in the Tai dynasty, but in a special space domain. This domain was very extraordinary. It was different from the first stage's battle space. The second stage was in a space that had been passed down from the Tai dynasty since ancient times. It could be said to be a secret realm. The Crown Prince selection had always been held in this mystic realm. As for the second stage, each prince brought a different group of people. In the first stage, each prince could bring 5 young geniuses with him. As for the second stage, the older generation was allowed to participate. However, all participants had to be below the 8-star king realm. Not only that, but each prince could also bring a different number of people. The first prince had the most people. The first prince could bring 15 people. The second prince, the 8th prince, could bring 14 people. The third prince, could bring 13 people. The fourth prince, could bring 12 people. The fifth prince, the 15th prince, could bring 11 people. In addition, all the other princes could only bring 10 people. Although the difference in numbers was not big, at most, it was only 5 people. However, this time, the people they brought were definitely peerless geniuses and top-notch experts. One expert was enough to influence the entire lineup. As for how the game was going to be played, it would depend on the princes. Soon, all the princes brought their peerless experts to the Grand Imperial Palace. This was the center of the Imperial City, and it was the place with the strongest dragon chi in the entire Tai dynasty. Here, Lin Xian could feel the powerful dragon chi under his feet. It was as if a true dragon was lying below. In front of him, there was a middle-aged man who looked very valiant. He was wearing a golden dragon robe with 9 golden dragons embroidered on it. He wore a crown on his head, and his face was intimidating. The place where he stood was surrounded by the shadows of dragons. He was the current emperor of the Tai dynasty. Beside him stood a woman wearing a phoenix crown and a phoenix robe. She looked very noble, and her phoenix eyes looked down on the common people. She was the empress of the Tai royal sheath, the mother of the first prince. Behind the two of them stood the elders of the royal family. Although they were old, their eyes were shining with rich power. Then, these elders stood in 8 directions, and their palms were also covered with dragon seals. Power surged out of their bodies, and they flew into the ground. Soon, the dragon patterns on the ground flickered, and the shadows of dragons appeared. They even let out a low dragon roar. At this moment, the emperor in front of them also took a step forward. Then, he pressed his palm forward. On his golden robe, 9 golden dragons seemed to come alive. They flew into the sky and circled each other, forming a huge dragon diagram that covered the sky. Crack! Crack! Boom! 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 The ground trembled, and streams of dragon chi soared into the sky. There were a total of 81 streams of dragon chi in the surroundings. Lin Xian realized that there were very complicated runes under their feet. Each of them was a dragon pattern, and there was a shadow of a dragon. These dragon runes covered the entire ground. Then, the emperor in front of them said in a deep voice, "Now, the second test begins." As his voice fell, the dragon patterns on the ground flickered more and more. Then, the 81 streams of dragon chi intertwined and surrounded everyone. Then, they tore through the void and disappeared. Buzz! When Lin Xian, the 8th prince, and the others appeared again, they realized that they were surrounded by mountains and a vast primeval forest. Roars could be heard from afar, bringing with them a barbaric aura and a terrifying demonic aura. Is this where the second test will be? As soon as Lin Xian appeared, he activated the great dragon sword soul, and he immediately regained his clarity. Then, he looked around. The 8th prince and the other sky brides also began to circulate their spiritual energy to heal their bodies. This time, the 8th prince could bring 14 people. Other than himself, there was Lin Xian, Lu Fei, and Duan Qingqing. There was also a young man called Su Winshan. Other than them, the rest were middle-aged or older people. Taoist Master Long, who Lin Xian had met before, was also among them. These people's auras were very powerful, and they had different roles. There were many kings with powerful attacks, but there were also array masters and soul power experts. There were even beast tamers. It could be said that they were well equipped. It wasn't just the 8th prince's side. The other princes also had similar arrangements. They were all trying their best to perfect their equipment. This was because the second test would last for a long time, a full month. During this month, anything could happen. Chapter 2073. The second stage lasted for a very long time, a full month. During this month, anything could happen. Moreover, there were many powerful monster kings in this space. If they could be tamed, they could also use them for their own purposes. In that case, the benefits would be huge. Moreover, it could give others a surprise attack. Apart from that, there were also ancient cities, ancient ruins, and even cemeteries and caves left behind by powerful cultivators. Those places contained a large number of restrictions and were very dangerous. However, if they could break them and obtain the treasures inside, they might be able to improve. They might even be able to turn defeat into victory. These people came in to crazily fight for the jade tokens in the hands of the other princes and explore these ancient ruins. The 8th prince looked around and said, "How about this? This space is very big, and we have many people. I think we can divide into 3 teams. I'll lead one team, Priest Long will lead one team, and Brother Lin will lead one team." 14 people, including the 8th prince, made a total of 15 people. They were divided into 3 teams of 5 people each. Hearing that the 8th prince and Priest Long would each lead a team, the older generation and peerless geniuses nodded slightly. However, when they heard that Lin Xian would lead a team, they frowned slightly. That was because Lin Xian was a young man. Moreover, he was only a 6-star king and not a mighty figure. Therefore, they were a little confused about this suggestion. The 8th prince smiled and said, "Everyone, don't worry. Brother Lin's strength is far beyond your imagination. In the first stage, he won all 5 battles. He even won against a peerless swordsman like the First Blade. Therefore, he was definitely capable of leading a team." Hearing this, those who had not watched the first round of the competition sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, they started to fight Lin Xian again. "Alright, let's divide it like this," Priest Long also said. Among them, Duan Qingqing followed the 8th prince and 3 other older generation figures. On Priest Long's side, there were Lu Fei, the young man named Su Winshan, and 2 other experts. On Lin Xian's side, other than himself who was young, the others were all older generation figures. To be honest, although Lin Xian was powerful, being led by such a young man still made the older generation unhappy. But since the 8th prince said so, they couldn't resist. "Since the team is already very good, let's split up. By the way, Brother Lin, here are 3 pieces of the Jade Buddha King medallion. You can use them to communicate with us from afar." The 8th prince gave Lin Xian 3 Jade Buddha King tablets. Among them, the 8th prince took 6 while Taoist Long took 5. With these jade talismans, they were able to establish a weak connection. At the very least, he knew the general direction of the other party. However, they were unable to sense any specific information. "How about this? Let's set the deadline as 5 days. After 5 days, we'll meet here and see how much everyone has gained." "Good." Lin Xian nodded, and so did Taoist Long. Then, the 3 teams quickly ran in 3 different directions. Although they were moving quickly, they had already prepared some things before they entered, including the map in each of their hands. The map marked out the dangerous areas, the monster hordes, and the ancient ruins. It could be said that other than the areas that they had never been to, the other areas had already been mapped out by these people. Moreover, these people also had a small bell that could transmit signals. But it could only transmit signals 3 times before it had to be refined again. Lin Xian opened the map and looked in a direction. Then, he said, "Let's take a look at this area first." The other older generation people took a look and frowned slightly. There were groups of demonic beasts roaming about in this area. "Are you sure there's no danger here?" "Yes, kid, although you're powerful and are valued by the 8th prince, I'm afraid you're still lacking in experience. I think we should listen to what the older generation has to say." Just then, a middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "There's no need." However, Lin Xian shook his head and kept the map. "Since the 8th prince has handed the team to me, I have the right to make the decision. I hope you can cooperate with me." As he spoke, he took the lead. His figure flashed, and his entire person flew out. "Sigh, he's too young. He doesn't know how high the sky is." Just then, the middle-aged man shook his head. The other old man snorted coldly. "Let's wait and see. There'll be problems. The 8th prince has let a kid guide us. He's too naive." Another old man said, "It's fine. Anyway, there's only 5 days. I believe he'll have problems in these 5 days. When we go back, we'll give the 8th prince a suggestion and change the team leader." The few of them discussed for a while and then followed. However, they obviously didn't believe in Lin Xian. Lin Xian's team had 5 people. Other than himself, there was a middle-aged man and a lady in red. Other than that, there was an old man in a black robe and an old man in a blue robe. These 4 people were all powerful beings, and they were all elites among the powerful beings. It could be said that he was extremely powerful and had incomparably rich combat experience. Therefore, they naturally looked down on people of the younger generation like Lin Xian. Lin Xian naturally knew what these people were thinking when they looked at him. However, he didn't care. The reason why he could lead these people was because of his true strength. Therefore, he believed that it wouldn't take long for these people to know why the 8th prince made him the leader. Therefore, in the next moment, he turned around, tapped his foot, and quickly flew out. The others could only shake their heads and sigh. They also flew out. This space was different from the outside. The spiritual energy was more abundant, but the gravity was heavier. In other words, everyone's original strength was suppressed here. They could only use about 80% of their original strength. However, this wasn't a big deal to them. This was because this space was open to everyone. If you're suppressed by 80%, so am I. Overall, everyone's strength was the same. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. This was because they couldn't keep up with Lin Xian's speed. Immediately, these experts of the older generation frowned. Damn it, how could this be? How could this kid fly so fast? Could it be that he wasn't affected by the space's suppression? To be honest, they were really surprised. Now, their speed was only 80% of their original speed. It could be said that they were much slower than before. However, Lin Xian's speed was so fast that it far surpassed them. They couldn't believe it. Chapter 2074. His speed was so fast that it far surpassed theirs. They couldn't believe it. Damn it, was this kid a king who specialized in speed? The black-robed elder frowned. The blue-robed elder snorted coldly. Was this kid specifically targeting them? Did he really think that he could make things difficult for them? How naive! Thinking of this, he snorted coldly. The spiritual power in his body erupted, forming a powerful airwave that accelerated his speed again. Seeing this, the other three also circulated their power and sped up to catch up. To be honest, these people were wrong. Lin Xian didn't mean to make things difficult for these people. He was just flying at his previous speed. Although the space here was somewhat suppressive on him, for some reason, when he used the Great Dragon Sword Soul, the suppression disappeared. In other words, to Lin Xian, there was almost no difference between the inside and outside. Lin Xian was very surprised, but he knew that the Great Dragon Sword Soul was extremely mysterious. It must have played a role in offsetting the suppression. Therefore, his speed was normal for the outside world. The speed of the others was suppressed to 80%. In comparison, he naturally flew faster than the others. Boom! 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 Therefore, when he heard the sound of the air exploding behind him, Lin Xian also turned his head and immediately frowned. In the next moment, he understood. It seemed that he was focused on flying and forgot that these people were suppressed. Therefore, in the next moment, he also slowed down. In fact, his body swayed and flew down. Why did he suddenly land? When the older generation figures saw this scene, they frowned again. The blue-robed elder snorted coldly. Let's go down and see what he's up to. The four of them also landed. Lin Xian looked at them and said, This space is very strange. This space was somewhat special, and it formed a certain restriction on kings. Moreover, we have been traveling for such a long time. If we encounter an enemy, we won't be able to fight them in peak condition. Therefore, I think it's better to capture a few flying beasts and let them carry us while we sit on them. This way, we can travel quickly and maintain our peak physical strength. This is a good idea. The woman in red nodded her head after hearing that. However, the other black-robed old man said, But we are all attack-type kings. None of us are beast tamers. That's right. The blue-robed old man also said. Moreover, the demonic beasts here had been neglected for a long time. They were very ferocious. It was impossible for them to submit to humans. These people completely disagreed with Lin Xian's suggestion. He even felt that it was too childish to think of such a method. However, Lin Xian smiled and said, Don't worry, I can tame these demonic beasts. What? You can? Hearing this, the few of them were stunned. They hadn't seen Lin Xian's performance in the first round with their own eyes, so they didn't know how strong Lin Xian was. They only judged based on the final rankings. However, they knew that Lin Xian was a swordsman. His swordsmanship was strong, but in terms of taming demonic beasts, it was not certain. Therefore, the four of them obviously didn't believe him. Lin Xian ignored the four of them. He circulated his soul power and searched the surrounding dozens of miles. Soon, a smile appeared on his face. He found that there were a few flying demonic beasts in front of him. In the next moment, he turned into a bolt of lightning and flew over at high speed. This kid can't be thinking of taming demonic beasts, right? The middle-aged man frowned slightly. The blue-robed old man snorted coldly. What a joke. He was strong, but only among the younger generation. Moreover, he could kill demonic beasts, but taming demonic beasts wasn't something an ordinary person could do. It required a strong soul power and special techniques. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few beast tamers. However, the woman in red looked into the distance. Let's go and take a look. It's futile to go there. The black-robed old man shook his head, unmoved. They didn't think that Lin Xian could succeed. However, after about half an hour, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the distance. The few of them looked up and were stunned. Their eyes widened as if they had seen a ghost. In the sky ahead, Lin Xian was sitting on a demonic crane, flying quickly. There were 2 other demonic cranes flying on both sides. They were flying in the same pattern. The demonic aura on their bodies was soaring to the sky, bringing with it a powerful storm that tore through the void. This is? They were shocked and couldn't believe it. Could it be that he really succeeded? Just as they were in a daze, Lin Xian landed slowly with the 3 demonic cranes. The powerful storm blew the clothes of the 4 people. Suddenly, they were awakened. Then, the middle-aged man asked, "Young friend Lin, did you really tame them?" "No way, how did you do it?" The woman in red was also shocked, and the 2 old men behind her twitched their mouths. Previously, they thought that it was impossible for him to succeed, but now it seemed that he really did it. It surprised them. Could it be that he's really a beast tamer? Thinking of this, the 2 old men's expressions became extremely solemn. They realized that they had underestimated this kid who was a few thousand years younger than them. At this moment, Lin Xian opened the map, pointed at it, and said, "We're in Tianfeng Forest, and there are 2 ancient ruins nearby. How about this? We'll split into 2 groups and explore these 2 ancient ruins. Then we'll meet here." "What? Split up?" Hearing this, the middle-aged woman was stunned. "What if we meet enemies after splitting up?" the middle-aged man also asked. Indeed, it was very common to see a team of 5 people. If they split up into 2 or 3 people, they wouldn't be able to escape at all. Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, it shouldn't be a problem with 2 seniors together. Moreover, we have these tamed demonic beasts with us. Their combat power is not bad, and their flying ability is very strong. Even if they can't win, they can run away. How about this? I'll trouble you 2 seniors to explore the one on the right. I'll lead the other 2 to explore the one on the left." Lin Xian also realized that the 2 old men didn't seem to trust him, so he couldn't be bothered with them. He let the 2 of them explore alone, while he led the other 2 to the other side. "All right." The 2 old men looked at each other and nodded in agreement. To be honest, they made a mistake in their judgment. Now that their faces were red, it would be very awkward for them to stay. Perhaps later on, this brat would take out some other ability to slap their faces. Slap. It was better to stay away from him now. Otherwise, if they were provoked again, their old hearts wouldn't be able to take it. Chapter 2075. They might as well hide as far away as possible. Otherwise, if they were stimulated again, their old hearts wouldn't be able to take it. Hence, the 2 of them looked at each other, then rode on the demonic beast and soared into the sky, disappearing into the sky. The middle-aged man and the woman in red who were left behind said worriedly, "Little friend Lin, will the 3 of us be in danger?" To be honest, among the 5 of them, the 2 old men had the highest cultivation, but now, the 2 of them had actually left. As for the remaining 3, Lin Xian was only a 6-star king. Although his strength was at the level of a mighty figure, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat those late-stage mighty figures at all. The 2 middle-aged men were only at the mid-stage of the mighty figure realm. Therefore, they were very worried. Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, trust me. You won't be in danger if you follow me. Then, he put away the map. Let's go to the left. You two ride on this demonic beast first, I'll tame another one later. As he said that, he moved his body and quickly soared into the sky. In addition, the woman in red and the middle-aged man looked at each other. They could only shrug, sit on the demonic beast, and quickly soar into the sky. Not long after, Lin Xian caught another double-headed eagle and sat cross-legged on it. The group of people flew towards their destination. After about half a day, the middle-aged woman frowned. Little friend Lin, this route doesn't seem to be right. The middle-aged man looked at the map and then looked around. Yes, the destination should be in that direction. I know. Lin Xian also opened his eyes and woke up from his cultivation. Then, he said, let's not go to that destination for now. Not going to the destination for now? Then where are we going? The two of them were stunned. They didn't understand what Lin Xian was doing. Lin Xian said, I've already sensed the aura of other kings nearby. They should be the subordinates of some prince. Since I've encountered them, it's impossible for me to not make a move. He just didn't know how many Jade Buddha King tokens they had. What? You want to rob them? Hearing this, the middle-aged man and the woman in red were stunned. Damn, is this kid all right? What kind of joke was this? There were only 3 of them now. If they encountered other groups, it would be too late for them to run. This brat actually wanted to rob him. Are you kidding me? Moreover, what puzzled them the most was that there were other kings around. Why didn't they sense it? One had to know that both of them were mid-stage 7-star kings, and they were extremely powerful existences among the Almighties. However, they didn't find anything even after sensing around. Could it be that this kid's soul force was even more terrifying than the 2 of them? Thinking of this, the corners of their mouths twitched. However, after around the time for half an incense stick to burn, a few strands of formidable fluctuations suddenly arose from afar, and it instantly caused the middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman to be shocked. Sure enough, someone was coming. It seemed that this kid's soul power was really strong. They were extremely shocked. Then, one by one, they stood up as if they were facing a great enemy. Why don't we take advantage of this opportunity to leave? If they were surrounded by them, the situation would not be good. Leave? Why did he have to leave? I still want to rob them. Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. As they spoke, the strands of aura in the distance quickly rushed over and then turned into human figures. When they looked at Lin Xian, they were also stunned, and then they all smiled. Haha, there are actually people, and it's a small group of 3. It seems that we're really going to strike it rich this time. I wonder which prince's subordinates are so bold to form a small group of 3. Could it be that they don't want to live anymore? Who knows? They're probably idiots. Their brains must have been flooded with water. A few sneers could be heard. They didn't take Lin Xian and the other 2 seriously at all. Indeed, because there were 5 of them on their side. Moreover, among the 5 of them, there was no one of the younger generation. All 5 of them were powerful almighties. Their auras connected the heavens and the earth, suppressing all directions. Oh no, it's the second prince's men. On Lin Xian's side, the red-clothed woman frowned. She looked ahead and said quickly. The middle-aged man beside her also frowned. Damn it, Demon Blade King is also here. He looked at the tall figure in front of him, and his scalp went numb. It was a man in a black robe, and he looked very fierce. A long green saber hung on his waist, emitting a demonic aura. Demon Blade King! Demon Blade King looked at Lin Xian and the other 2 with a disdainful smile. Then, he said coldly, The 3 of you, hand over your jade talismans and storage rings. I can let you live. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Hearing that, the middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman felt their scalps go numb, and a look of despair appeared in their eyes. It's over. Demon Blade King was a very terrifying existence, and his strength was far beyond theirs. In addition, the other side had so many people. They couldn't win at all. It seemed that this time, not only would they lose all their treasures, but they would also lose 3 jade talismans. Thinking of this, they were very regretful. They shouldn't have agreed to let the 2 old men leave. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to fight 5 against 5, even if Demon Blade King was powerful. If they couldn't do it, they could run away. But now, they were facing 5 people, and they couldn't resist at all. However, Lin Xian smiled. Demon Blade King was indeed powerful, but it seemed that his strength was about the same as the first slash. Even the first slash was defeated by him. Although the other party was a veteran, so what? Therefore, he was not afraid at all. As for the other mighty figures, he didn't take them seriously at all. Therefore, the next moment, he said with a smile, "Very well, hand over your storage rings and jade talismans, and I'll let you live. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you." Lin Xian's words were very simple. He returned the words to those people. On the other side, Demon Blade King and the others were stunned after hearing that. They couldn't even believe their ears. Among them, an old man sneered. "What did he say? He wants to rob us. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Where did this kid come from? Is there something wrong with his brain? Can't he see what kind of scene he's in?" On the other side, a purple-clothed woman covered her mouth and chuckled, her eyes full of contempt. They didn't know Lin Xian at all, because the first battle was only participated by the younger generation and the princes. These old people didn't participate, so they naturally didn't know Lin Xian. Moreover, so what if they knew him? In their opinion, they were all old people who had lived for hundreds or thousands of years. Facing a young boy, how could they let him do anything? Therefore, these people didn't take him seriously at all. Chapter 2076. Kid, it seems like you don't know what's good for you. Since that's the case, I'll personally take the jade token and your storage rings. Devil Blade King snorted and was about to make his move. At this moment, another middle-aged man stood out. This man wore a green robe and had a small mustache. His eyes were cold and sinister. He laughed. "There's no need for Devil Blade King to deal with a kid. Let me do it." "All right." Devil Blade King nodded and did not make his move. Indeed, his opponent was too young and not worth his time. At this moment, the green-robed man walked out. He looked at Lin Xian and sneered. "Kid, I advise you to surrender obediently. Kneel on the ground and hand over all your treasures. Otherwise, you're dead meat." "You talk too much." Lin Xian snorted. Since he had decided to make his move, he did not hesitate. In the next moment, he pulled out the 9 darkness demonic sword and flew forward. "You're courting death." The green-robed man snorted when he saw that Lin Xian dared to take the initiative to attack. In the next moment, his eyes turned sharp and a majestic aura surged out from his body. Then, he waved his 2 palms. Jasper palm. As he waved his palms, the sky was instantly filled with light. 2 jade-like palms blasted toward Lin Xian. The aura was extremely terrifying. Ordinary almighties would not be able to resist it. One could imagine that the green-robed man was also an elite almighty. Lin Xian sneered in disdain. Such a person was nothing in his hands. Buzz! A sword light flashed and turned into a shocking rainbow that slashed down from the sky. Then, the 2 palms were split apart by the sword. "What? How is this possible?" Seeing this, the green-robed man's pupils shrank. In the next moment, he was also sent flying by the sword. Stunned. Everyone was stunned. Whether it was the other almighties or Lin Xian's 2 companions, they were all stunned. What did they just see? An elite almighty was sent flying by a sword? Is this really done by a young man in his 20s? Thinking of this, their scalps went numb. On Lin Xian's side, the middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman swallowed their saliva madly. On the other hand, the faces of the people on the other side became incomparably ugly. The man who was sent flying spat out large mouthfuls of blood. A sword wound appeared on his body, almost splitting him in half. With just 1 sword strike, he had already lost the ability to fight. He was too terrified. There was nothing he could do. Lin Xian had not held back at all. This sword contained the terrifying power of the great dragon sword spirit. Furthermore, the opponent's cultivation was suppressed in this space. Therefore, there was a huge gap between the two of them. A single sword strike was enough to finish off the other party. Damn it, kill him! The people on the other side were stunned for a few seconds. Then, they came back to their senses and gritted their teeth. This time, two mighty figures flew out. One of them was that purple-clothed woman, and the other was an old man. The two of them, one in front and one behind, quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. Boom! Half-moon slash. Pegasus fist. A crescent moon appeared in the sky, crushing the void. Then, it turned into a sharp light and ruthlessly slashed towards Lin Xian. On the other side, the void trembled and cracked open. Then, spiritual energy filled the sky and condensed into a Pegasus. It was as white as a mountain. It stepped on the void, and there were two wings on its back that were almost 10,000 feet long. It swept across like a heavenly blade. The shadow of the Pegasus quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. Two powerful killing moves instantly enveloped Lin Xian. Not good. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman on Lin Xian's side changed drastically. Lin Xian probably would not be able to resist such a killer move. The two of them wanted to help Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He let out a long roar, and the sword chi on his body suddenly erupted. The fire deity roared. Boundless hellfire spread, and then a huge black giant quickly appeared from his body. It was 10,000 feet tall and roared at the sky. With a roar, a sea of fire spread across the sky and blocked the shocking attack. Then, a giant flame sword that was 10,000 feet long appeared in the flame giant's hand. It was extremely black, and the divine fire on it was dancing. The sword slashed down. Boom! In the sky, the huge moon was split in half, and on the other side, the Pegasus was cut in half. Boom! 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 That was not the end. Lin Xian controlled the flame giant, and waved the giant flame sword in all directions. That terrifying sword she transformed into a furious black dragon, rampaging through the area. Suddenly, the purple-clothed woman and the yellow-robed elder were sent flying. Everyone gasped again, and their faces were full of horror. What kind of technique was that? How could he defeat three elite mighty figures in an instant? Who was that person? That was too terrifying. On the other side, the second prince's people were stunned. On the other side, the middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman were also shocked. The Devil Blade King's face was gloomy. He originally thought that Lin Xian was just an ordinary young man. So what if he was a genius? He did not take him seriously at all. After all, compared to the older generation of powerhouses like them, the younger generation of geniuses was nothing. However, he did not expect that the other party was so powerful that he could injure three of them in a short period of time. He had to make a move. Otherwise, they would be defeated this time. He was the famous Devil Blade King, and he would not allow such a thing to happen. How dare you injure my people? Even the Heavenly King will not be able to save you today. The Devil Blade King was furious. He took a step forward, and a sharp sword light appeared on his body. It instantly cut open the void and slashed fiercely at Lin Xian. Humph, I'm not afraid of you. Lin Xian snorted and also took a step forward. In the next moment, a sword light also rushed out from his body like a rainbow to meet the attack. The sword and the saber collided in the air, and countless cracks were torn in the air. Then, the two of them dissipated in the sky. What? He blocked the attack? The Devil Blade King frowned. The other party was more powerful than he had imagined. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was solemn. He said to the two people behind him, "The two of you should be able to get rid of the injured ones and the other almighty, right?" The middle-aged man and the woman in red were stunned, but then they nodded. The two of them could definitely get rid of the three severely injured ones and the almighty. They still wanted to say something, but when they saw Lin Xian's expression, they shut their mouths. Because they felt that even the Devil Blade King might not be able to defeat the young man in front of them. because the other party was too mysterious. In the next moment, the two of them swayed their bodies and flew away. Meanwhile, the Devil Blade King was furious. The other party was trying to take advantage of the situation. He was really courting death. In the next moment, a sharp light burst out from his eyes and turned into two green sword lights. They shrouded the middle-aged man and the woman in red. Feeling the sharp sword lights, the two of them were shocked. They immediately put up their armor to defend themselves. They had no choice. The Devil Blade King was too powerful, far more powerful than them. Chapter 2077. The two men's expressions changed drastically when they felt the sharp blade light. They immediately activated their armor to defend themselves. They had no choice. Devil Blade King was too powerful. He was far stronger than them. However, the two green blade lights did not land. They were shattered by the two sword auras that Lin Xian shot out. "Your opponent is me," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. "Kid, you're courting death." Devil Blade King was enraged when he saw this. How dare his opponent stop him? How despicable! Lin Xian sneered. There was a rule in the first stage. He was not allowed to kill anyone. However, there were no such rules in the second stage. He would kill anyone who dared to provoke him, even if the other party was the prince's subordinate. Therefore, Lin Xian did not have any scruples. In the next moment, he stomped his foot. Countless red sword runes appeared. They were densely packed and instantly covered the entire ground. A huge sword diagram formed under his feet. It emitted a terrifying light and a mysterious energy. Not only did the sword diagram wrap around Lin Xian, but it also wrapped around Devil Blade King. In an instant, thousands of blood-red sword lights appeared around Devil Blade King. Each of them was extremely sharp. They carried a monstrous aura that could destroy the sky. "Get lost!" Devil Blade King was furious. In the next moment, he pulled out the long blade at his waist. He swung his blade. Suddenly, a green light flashed. Then, green flames danced and burned fiercely between heaven and earth. It formed a sea of blade light and fire, shattering the hundreds of blood-red sword auras around him. Boom! 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 At the same time, a green field appeared around him. It kept expanding and formed a safe zone around him. It blocked the blood-red sword lights that filled the sky. "Kid, do you think you can threaten me with that little strength of yours? You're too naive. Today, I'll show you the power of my Devil Blade King." Devil Blade King's eyes emitted a terrifying light as he spoke. Then, his hair turned green too. They danced wildly in the wind like green poisonous snakes. Devil Blade Slash. As the blade slashed down, the green blade light turned into a blade light storm and swept toward Devil Blade King. For a time, the entire void was cut into pieces, and wounds could be seen everywhere. This gale of saber light was not only sharp but also scorching hot. The green flames circled around him, pulsating like will-o'-the-wisps. In an instant, the area within a radius of 100 miles was completely covered. The mountains, trees, and rivers below were instantly destroyed and turned into ashes. Nothing was left behind. One could only imagine how terrifying this slash was. Demon Slaying Sword Formation, Qilin's Fury. Lin Xian also shouted coldly. The Demon Slaying Sword Formation around him flickered and emitted a monstrous blood aura. Then, streaks of blood-red sword light quickly condensed and shot up into the sky. It transformed into a huge blood-colored Qilin. It was hundreds of meters tall, and its entire body was covered in bloody light, dyeing the sky red. It was as if a real divine beast had descended from the ancient times. The murderous aura on his body was too strong, causing people to tremble all over. With a roar, the blood Kirin spat out a red ball of light. It was as big as a meteor, and it tore through space as it sped away. Immediately, the green flames that filled the sky and the terrifying saber light were all shattered. "Qilin kill, go!" Lin Xian shouted angrily. Suddenly, countless blood-red auras surged between heaven and earth. It was like a sea of blood, carrying with it a monstrous and terrifying power. Then, the blood Kirin quickly rushed forward, turning into a stream of light. It carried with it a soul-stirring spiritual aura as it quickly attacked. As it ran, its body emitted a monstrous sea of blood and a sharp sword aura. It was like a demon king walking in the sky. Boom! Boom! On the other side, Devil Blade King was furious. He held the Devil Blade in his hand and slashed it down. Suddenly, a shocking saber light shot up into the sky, tearing apart the aura in the sky and slamming into the huge blood Kirin. The two forces were so strong that they tore apart the sky and suppressed all directions. The Almighties who were fighting in the distance frantically retreated, looking terrified. Demon Blade Monarch sneered. But soon, his smile froze. This was because he realized that his saber light was quickly shattering. Then, the Kirin in front of him rose into the sky, and its aura became even more terrifying. Not only that, but the Kirin's blurry figure was now as real as it could be. Its body was covered with scales. Each of them was lifelike, and their huge eyes were red like rivers of blood. Tens of thousands of sharp swords she revolved around his body as he charged over again. Damn it, how is this possible? Devil Blade King's pupils shrank. How could his opponent be so powerful? The sword aura was too shocking. It was even more powerful than his saber light. However, his opponent was just a young man. How could he be stronger than him? He could not believe it. He had been cultivating for 1,000 years, and his saber skills were terrifying. Otherwise, he would not have been called Devil Blade King. But now, he realized that he could not suppress his opponent. However, what shocked him even more was yet to come. That was because Lin Xian had made another move. A green sword light tore through the void, and no one dared to look at it directly. It was too dazzling and terrifying. It tore through the void and came slashing down. Bang! The sword was so fast that Devil Blade King did not have time to react. It was already in front of him. In a hurry, he could only raise his saber to block. Clang! In the next moment, the huge force sent the saber in his hand flying. His entire arm went numb, and he was pushed back 3,000 miles. Buzz! Lin Xian stepped on the demigods and semi-devils, and he turned into a stream of light and arrived in front of his opponent in an instant. Damn it, how could he be so powerful? Devil Blade King was shocked and could not believe it. His opponent's speed was too fast. He arrived in front of him in an instant. Now, he had lost the saber in his hand. However, as a powerful king, he still had other means. Wind and Thunder Fist. With a roar, Devil Blade King quickly waved his fist. Immediately, the fist flashed with an incomparably terrifying gale, and the power of lightning that filled the sky. The whole sky around him was boiling, and it turned into a huge shadow of a wind and thunder fist. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The momentum was extremely great. In the distance, the middle-aged man and the woman in red had finished their battle. However, when they saw the fist at this moment, their scalps went numb. They did not expect that Devil Blade King's fist skills were so terrifying in addition to his saber skills. Lin Xian sneered. He was not afraid at all. He swung his sword. Like a sword god, a terrifying sword light pierced through the sky and smashed down like a real dragon. The void cracked, and the earth cracked. Two balls of light exploded in the sky, emitting an incomparably bright light that made people unable to open their eyes. However, Devil Blade King screamed because his wind and thunder fist was split open. The sword light hit his hand, and it immediately changed the shape of his arm. Chapter 2078. Damn it! Impossible! This is impossible! Who are you? Devil Blade King clutched his arm and retreated again with a hideous expression. He did not expect his opponent's swordlight to be so powerful. Fine, I'll let you die knowing. My name is Lin Xian. What? Lin Xian? You're actually Lin Xian. Devil Blade King was shocked to hear that. He recalled that in the first stage, there were two peerless geniuses who won all 5 battles and defeated all their opponents. One of them was the Golden Lion King of the Battle Tribe, and the other was a peerless swordsman called Lin Xian. He did not expect the young man in front of him to be Lin Xian. No wonder he's the one who defeated Bai Zijing and the First Blade. Devil Blade King's expression turned ugly when he thought of that. He gritted his teeth and said, "This is a misunderstanding. I don't want your things anymore. Let us go." "Let you go? Fine. Cut off one of your arms and hand over your storage ring and the King Jade token. I can let you go." "What?" Devil Blade King's pupils shrank when he heard that. The kings in the distance also had ugly expressions. "Kid, don't go too far. Since you're not willing to hand them over, I'll have to take them myself." Lin Xian's aura became more powerful as he spoke. He was like a real dragon roaring in the void. Devil Blade King's face turned pale again when he felt the sharp aura. He gritted his teeth and took off his storage ring, throwing it in the void. The King Jade token was also in the storage ring. He gritted his teeth and said, "Can you let us go now?" Lin Xian took the storage ring and forcefully opened it with his soul force. Then, he started to sense the contents. There was indeed a King Jade token and many treasures inside. Instantly, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He turned around and looked behind him. The middle-aged man nodded slightly. They had also taken the storage rings of the other 4 opponents. "Let's go." Upon seeing this sight, the Demon Blade King waved his hand, clenched his jaws, and prepared to leave. Although he had lost this time, he would not let it go. With a wave of his hand, he withdrew the demon blade. However, Lin Xian sneered. "I've said it before, leave an arm behind. Brat, you're courting death." Devil Blade King was enraged. Lin Xian coldly snorted. "What, do you think it's easy to assassinate me? Since you dare to attack me, you must pay the price." As he spoke, the aura on his body became sharp again. It was like a dazzling sword light that cut through the void. The sword slashed out like a peerless divine sword being unsheathed. It had the terrifying power to destroy stars. Then, it quickly shrouded Devil Blade King. "Ah!" Demon Blade King roared madly. His expression was ferocious, and his gray hair danced wildly in the wind. He didn't think that the other party would really dare to attack him. In the next moment, he also launched his own powerful attack to resist. Boom! In the intense collision, the sky was completely shattered. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. Then Demon Blade King was sent flying. An arm was chopped off. "Ah!" He turned around and fled. He turned into a stream of light, and instantly disappeared into the sky. He didn't even dare to take the demon blade anymore. When the remaining 4 Almighties saw this scene, their scalps went numb. They quickly fled. The middle-aged man and the woman in red were completely stunned. Demon Blade King really had one of his arms chopped off. This was too terrifying. He was one of the most terrifying Almighties, but he was defeated just like that. What kind of person was this young man in front of them? Lin Xian kept Demon Blade King's storage ring and the other 4 Almighties' storage rings. Then, he looked at the middle-aged man and the woman in red. "I'll report your contributions to the 8th Prince. When the time comes, I'll definitely reward you." They should have been happy, but now, they couldn't feel happy. In fact, they were even a little frightened. That was because the power that the other party had displayed was too powerful. They even started to doubt their lives. They were Almighties who had cultivated for 1,000 or 2,000 years, but when compared to the other party, the gap between them was so huge. The 2 of them shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Previously, they were still suspicious of Lin Xian. They didn't understand why the 8th Prince made Lin Xian the leader. But now, they understood. Lin Xian's strength was extremely terrifying. He was far above them. "All right, let's go and continue our search." The 3 of them rode on the beast and quickly set off. They turned into 2 streams of light and disappeared into the sky. Lin Xian wasn't the only one fighting. In other places, the Almighties of different princes were also fighting when they met. Boom! Boom! On the plain, an ordinary-looking young man was surrounded by blood-red light. His eyes were extremely red, like a demon. Around him, blood-red sea waters surged and surrounded the entire void. Within the sea of blood, there were 2 old men trapped within. There were other almighties fighting around them. However, there were only 3 people in the blood sea. Damn it, who is this kid? How can he be so terrifying? The 2 old men were the 10th Prince's men. They didn't expect to meet such a terrifying young man. The corners of the young man's mouth curled up. Next, enjoy the feast of killing. As soon as he said that, the sea of blood around him started to rumble. Then, the seawater churned and condensed into terrifying azuras. They covered the sky and the earth and charged forward. In an instant, the 2 old men were swallowed up. On the other side, in the valley, a tall young man in golden armor was emitting light like the sun. Like a golden god of war, he blocked the way out of the valley. In the valley, there were 2 middle-aged men and an old man. They had just picked a few sets of supreme-grade spiritual herbs in the valley and were very happy. However, they didn't expect that the way out would be blocked by someone. At first, they were very nervous. But later they found that there was only one person, and it was a young man. The 3 of them immediately laughed. Get lost, kid! Humph, what an idiot! How dare you act alone in the 2nd stage? Who do you think you are? How dare you rob us? You're courting death. Kneel there obediently and wait for your death. If we're in a good mood, we'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, we'll let you know what it feels like to live a life worse than death. So much nonsense! The young man in golden armor sneered and then formed a seal with both hands. Seal of the fearless lion. Roar! Golden light shone in the sky like the explosion of the sun. It was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. Then, a huge golden lion flew out of the young man's palm. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it flew forward. In an instant, it opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the 3 almighties. Chapter 2079. Crunch, crunch. The sound of bones being crunched could be heard in the silent valley, making one's scalp tingle. In short, although they had only been here for a few days, there was still an intense battle. Moreover, this battle was much more tragic than the 1st stage. In fact, many powerful almighties were killed mercilessly. On the other side, Lin Xian and the other 2 flew to their destination. After searching around, they found that the ancient ruins were in ruins. Moreover, there was nothing left inside. It was probably taken away by someone the last time they were here. Therefore, the 3 of them went back the way they came and prepared to rendezvous. Soon, they arrived at the rendezvous point and waited patiently. Lin Xian slowly closed his eyes and began to cultivate. The middle-aged man and the woman in red also sat at the side. One of them would cultivate while the other would observe the surroundings. Just like that, the cycle would repeat every 4 hours. Half a day later, Lin Xian suddenly opened his eyes and looked into the distance. Then, he said, "If anything happens, get ready to fight." The 2 of them did not find out anything, but they were very clear about Lin Xian's ability. It was the same the last time. Therefore, when they heard Lin Xian's words, they stood up and secretly channeled their power, ready to fight at any time. Indeed, not long after, the sound of something breaking through the void came from the distance. Then, 2 rays of light quickly flew over. It was a black ray of light and a blue ray of light that bloomed in the sky like a shooting star. When the woman in red saw this, she immediately exclaimed, "Our people are back!" However, Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. His eyes flickered as he looked into the distance. The middle-aged man also realized that the situation was not right. There seemed to be people behind them. That's right, there were indeed people behind them. After the 2 rays of light, there were 3 rays of light that streaked across the void and chased after them like lightning. They were being chased. The middle-aged man and woman were shocked. Looking at the situation in front of them, that should be it. That's right, the 2 people running for their lives were the 2 old men who left earlier. They also encountered enemies, but they were not as lucky as Lin Xian. The opponents they encountered were very strong. They were the 1st prince's subordinates. There were 3 of them. 2 of them were extremely powerful. One was the celestial river great ancestor, and the other was the king of many treasures. These two people were extremely terrifying. Their strength was above theirs. Moreover, there was another elite on the other side. 3 against 2, even if they had 2 flying demonic beasts, it was still not enough. Therefore, they could only run back. Moreover, they were running towards the agreed-upon location. Because in their opinion, as long as they met up 5 against 3, there should still be a chance for them to turn the tables. Sure enough, when they arrived near the rendezvous point, they saw 3 people below. The 2 old men smiled. Fortunately, the other party was here. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but shout loudly, "Hurry up and kill them!" Hearing this, the middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman looked at each other, and then coldly shouted. Their bodies turned into 2 long rainbows, and they instantly rushed into the sky. In an instant, the 4 of them surrounded the first prince's 3 subordinates. He actually had a helper. The 3 subordinates of the first prince glowed as they floated in the air. He released a powerful force that intimidated everyone. Among them, there was indeed the king of many treasures and the Sky River great ancestor. The other person was an old man. His aura was also powerful, and the long spear in his hand emitted a cold light. "What should we do?" the Sky River great ancestor asked. The king of many treasures sneered and directly attacked. "Those 2 old fellows have been chased by us for so many days. Their strength has probably been greatly reduced. Therefore, even if they have more people, they are no match for us." His analysis was indeed correct, but soon, he was stunned. That was because he saw another figure below. And that figure was extremely familiar to him. The king of many treasures saw it, and so did the Sky River great ancestor. His expression immediately became extremely unsightly. In fact, there was even a hint of ferocity. "Damn it, it's actually that kid." He recognized the other party because he had previously assassinated Lin Xian. In the end, he was injured by Lin Xian and had to escape in a sorry state. He did not expect to meet him again. When enemies met, their eyes would turn red. Immediately, the Sky River great ancestor stepped on the river of stars, and a terrifying light erupted from his body that could crush the void. "Damn kid, get over here and accept your death." There was a terrifying murderous intent in his voice. It shook the void and turned into an invisible wave. Seeing this scene, the 2 old men on Lin Xian's side frowned. Could it be that there was still a grudge between the 2 sides? If they really angered the Sky River great ancestor, and the king of many treasures, the situation would not be easy to control. After all, those 2 people were very terrifying existences. However, on the other side, the middle-aged man and the woman in red had very strange expressions. What's going on? How dare he provoke Lin Xian? Isn't he courting death? One had to know that they had witnessed Lin Xian's power with their own eyes a day or 2 ago. Even the powerful king of devil swords was defeated in the end and fled like a stray dog, let alone the Sky River great ancestor. Therefore, they really could not understand where the Sky River great ancestor got the courage to go against Lin Xian. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. He did not expect it to be those people. He let them escape last time, but he did not expect them to come again this time. Since he had met them, he did not intend to let them go. After all, those people wanted to kill him. Lin Xian never showed mercy to his enemies. In the next moment, he tapped his foot and instantly appeared in the sky. His robe fluttered, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. "It's actually you, a loser. How dare you come here to die? Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish." "What? A loser?" Hearing that, the expressions of the mighty figures in the sky all changed. The 2 old men on Lin Xian's side were stunned and filled with shock. What's going on? Could it be that the Sky River great ancestor had fought with Lin Xian and lost? How is that possible? They could not believe it because they had never seen Lin Xian fight before. On the first prince's side, the old man with the long spear also frowned, while the middle-aged man and the woman in red suddenly understood. No wonder. No wonder the Sky River great ancestor is so angry. It turns out that he has been defeated before. However, he's really courting death. He dares to attack again after being defeated. He must be tired of living. The Sky River great ancestor's face darkened as he gritted his teeth. Kid, don't be so smug. I was careless last time and was ambushed by you. This time, I'll definitely tear you into pieces. Starry River Waterfall. In the next moment, the Sky River great ancestor attacked. His body bloomed with the power of stars. When his palm moved, the stars in the sky shone and turned into starlight that shot out quickly. Chapter 2080. Boom! In an instant, the void split open, and killing intent surged. Countless cracks appeared in the surroundings. The scene was extremely terrifying. This scene caused the expressions of the surrounding mighty figures to change. Lin Xian sneered. He waved the demonic sword in his hand and quickly slashed down. Boom! The sword light surged into the sky and turned into a divine red color as it quickly slashed down. This strike was too shocking. It was as if the sky was pressing down. Within the sword energy, there was also a dragon sword domain floating and flickering. Lin Xian did not hold back with this strike. Boom! 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 The terrifying sword energy surged in all directions and slashed towards Tianhe. Boom! The sword cut through the stars in the sky, shattered the galaxy, and sent the great ancestor of the heavenly river flying. What? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. The two old men on Lin Xian's side felt their scalps go numb, and their bodies trembled. On the other side, the pupils of the King of Many Treasures and the old man with the long spear also constricted. Powerful, he's too powerful. Especially the King of Many Treasures, he was extremely shocked. The other party's methods were much more powerful than those he had encountered before. How long had it been, and the other party was already so terrifying? Tianhe was in an even more sorry state. This strike had seriously injured him. Ah! I'm going to kill you! He roared at the sky with a crazy expression. Like a demon, endless starlight surged out from his body and turned into a star domain. Billion stars slash! Kill! Tianhe roared crazily and activated his king domain without caring about the consequences. Boom! 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 Countless stars shone, and light danced in the sky. Immediately, thousands of starlight appeared in the sky. They flickered and turned into stars one after another, forming a light screen. It quickly pressed down. In an instant, heaven and earth trembled, and the entire space seemed to be about to split open. Lin Xian also shouted coldly. The great dragon sword soul in his body circulated, and a terrifying power surged out. Then, thousands of sword energy bloomed from his body. His entire body was fierce and murderous. He turned into a streak of divine red and instantly rushed out. Pooh! The sword light streaked across the sky, cutting through the void. Not only that, Tianhe's body also stiffened in the sky, and then his eyes widened. With a boom, he was cut into two halves. He was killed! He was killed with a single strike. These people all went crazy. They didn't dare to believe it. That was esteemed Master Tianhe. Elite mighty figures were terrifyingly powerful. However, he was killed by a young man in his 20s with a single sword strike. On Ling Xian's side, the two elders were completely stunned. The middle-aged man and the red-clothed woman felt their scalps go numb. Although they had seen Lin Xian's methods before, they were still extremely shocked when they saw it again. On the other side, the King of Treasures and the old man with the long spear were even more shocked. Was this guy even human? How could he deal with an elite supreme being all by himself? If they stayed any longer, they would most likely die without a doubt. In the next moment, King of Many Treasures roared in rage and attacked. He went all out to break out. At this point, his body blossomed with light. He turned into a rainbow and flew into the distance. The old man wielded the red spear in his hand. Then, he became one with the spear and pierced through the void, trying to escape. Stop them! However, Lin Xian let out a cold snort, and his body once again emitted thousands of rays of light. The demon-slaying sword formation under his feet quickly formed blood swords, completely sealing off the entire space. Boom! Hearing Lin Xian's words, the remaining 4 mighty figures also moved. The middle-aged man waved his fist, and it was like a mountain as it blasted forward. The red-clothed woman opened her mouth and spat out a storm, which turned into a tornado that swept through heaven and earth. The 2 old men beside her also roared angrily. They raised their combat strength to the limit and quickly attacked. A huge palm blotted out the sky and covered the earth. On the other side, the earth trembled, and countless rock beasts appeared. They also grabbed upwards. For a moment, the sky and the earth were filled with terrifying killing moves. No matter how powerful the King of Treasures and the old man with the long spear were, they couldn't resist at all. Therefore, in an instant, the 2 of them were shattered by the void, and their bodies fell out. Their expressions became extremely unsightly. Kill! At this moment, the old man with the long spear roared and took the lead to attack. He wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Therefore, he charged towards the blue-clothed old man. Because among Lin Xian's group of 5, the 2 old men had consumed the most energy, so their combat strength was also the weakest. If he wanted to break out, he naturally had to choose the weaker ones. In the sky, a red light flickered, and then a red spear appeared and swept over. It stabbed fiercely towards the blue-clothed old man. This spear was so terrifying that it made people tremble. Sure enough, the blue-clothed old man was sent flying and vomited large mouthfuls of blood. At this moment, Lin Xian said coldly, "The 4 of you hurry up and attack. Leave the rest to me." What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. However, when they thought of the situation where the Tianhe great ancestor was killed in an instant, they didn't dare to say anything. Immediately, the 4 mighty figures quickly surrounded the old man with the long spear. The old man with the long spear was overjoyed when he sent the blue-clothed old man flying. He thought that he could break out of the encirclement. However, in the next moment, the 4 of them surrounded him again. His face turned green. Damn it, what kind of joke is this? Although he was an elite mighty figure and was powerful, he could still fight 2 of them. He couldn't fight 3 of them. Now that the 4 of them attacked together, he had no ability to resist at all. Sure enough, soon, he let out an angry scream. When the Lord of Many Treasures saw this scene, he roared angrily, and wanted to go up to help. But soon, Lin Xian's sword slashed across the sky like a surging river, cutting through the void. You should worry about others first. Think about your own situation first. Kid, you're courting death. Get lost. The Lord of Many Treasures roared angrily, and immediately took out a huge green cauldron. As soon as the green cauldron appeared, it quickly expanded and turned into a huge cauldron that was tens of thousands of feet tall. It towered into the clouds. The terrifying weight caused the void to shatter in an instant. Not only that, a purple bell appeared in his hand and he shook it quickly. Boom! 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 An earth-shattering sound rang out as streams of purple sound waves spread out in all directions, causing the entire world to tremble. The surrounding mountains shattered in an instant, and the ground cracked open. It was extremely terrifying. Protection of ice. A huge ice goddess appeared on Lin Xian's body, forming a powerful protection. Not only that, the ice goddess flapped her wings, forming the power of wind and snow that filled the sky, freezing everything. Lin Xian even used the dragon sword domain, forming an azure dragon that directly lifted the huge cauldron that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Boom! Boom! The terrifying cauldron trembled as it was lifted up by the azure dragon. It was extremely terrifying. Then, a loud dragon roar sounded from Lin Xian's body, and a dragon head appeared on his body. Then, he merged with the demon's sword in his hand, turning into a peerless sword light. Seeing this scene, the Lord of Many Treasures' scalp went numb. Chapter 2081. That was the move that had split the Sky River Great Ancestor in half. He knew how terrifying that move was. In the next moment, he spat out a blue light curtain, which formed a sea that covered the sky and enveloped him. Then, he took out a large green umbrella and held it above his head, forming a defense that covered the sky and completely enveloped him. At the same time, a black armor appeared on his body. The king of many treasures heaved a sigh of relief when he suddenly put up so many defenses. However, in the next moment, his pupils suddenly constricted. He felt a chill on his neck, and he could no longer feel anything. Puff! Blood sprayed in the sky, dyeing the void red. Then, the king of many treasures' body fell to the ground. Lin Xian waved his hand and took away the king of many treasures' storage ring. Then, he frowned slightly. That was because he did not find the king jade talisman. On the other side, the battle had also ended. For against one, the old man with the long spear could not resist at all, and was directly beaten into a bloody mist. However, there was also no king jade talisman in his storage ring. It seemed that the three of them had only gone out to look for opportunities. There was no king jade talisman on them at all. However, Lin Xian did not care. At least he had obtained so many storage rings. The harvest this time was huge. So far, the three elite powerhouses under the first prince had all been killed. The middle-aged man and the woman in red were still able to accept it. However, the other two old men had shocked expressions on their faces. They were completely stunned. What was going on? How could the other party's combat strength be so powerful? Then, the woman in red told them what had happened in the past few days. When they heard that the king of devil swords had escaped with serious injuries, they gasped. He was definitely a peerless powerhouse and a peerless genius. They realized that they had underestimated Lin Xian. Since the other party was so powerful, it should not be difficult for him to kill them. Thinking of that, deep fear appeared in their eyes. Then, the two old men hurried to Lin Xian and said respectfully, "Young master, we have offended you before. I hope you won't misunderstand. In the future, the two of us will definitely obey any of your orders." "Okay." Lin Xian nodded slightly. He was very satisfied with the other party's current attitude. Thinking about it, the other party wouldn't dare to disobey his orders in the future. This would make things easier for him in the future. At this moment, the blue-clothed old man said, "Young master, you can distribute these storage rings as you wish." This was a rule that had existed in the past. There was such a thing. Hearing this, Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. The black-robed old man also said that there was indeed such a rule. In the second stage, other than the jade talisman and the king tablet, the other items could be obtained by one's own strength. So that was the case. Lin Xian nodded and took the Sky River Great Ancestor and the King of Many Treasures storage items. Then, he tossed the old man's storage ring to the four of them. "The four of you can divide the things inside equally." Then, he took out the storage rings that belonged to the Demon Blade King and the other four people and gave one of them to the woman in red and the middle-aged man. "This is your reward for last time." "Thank you, young master." Seeing this, the middle-aged man and the woman in red were overjoyed. The two old men also took a deep breath. Then, they began to divide the things in the storage rings. Lin Xian was also very satisfied. He had obtained a lot of storage rings from powerful figures. These people's things were extremely rich. Lin Xian didn't stand on ceremony. He absorbed all the supreme-grade subdivine crystals and mutant nerves that could be used. He used them to improve his strength. As for the other cultivation methods, he also picked out the useful ones. He also kept the useless ones for future exchanges and auctions. In any case, the harvest this time was really rich. Especially the storage rings of the Demon Blade King and the King of Many Treasures. The Demon Blade of the Demon Blade King was definitely a top-grade Earth-grade treasure weapon. It was very powerful and terrifying. However, it was a pity that he didn't use a blade. Therefore, this thing was useless to him. However, he should be able to sell it for a good price. Or exchange it for supreme-grade items. As for the King of Many Treasures, it was even more delightful. The King of Many Treasures didn't have any cultivation methods, but he had many treasures. In total, there were dozens of treasures. Among them, there were 3 top-grade treasures. There were also quite a number of high-grade weapons. There were 7 or 8 of them. The rest were middle-grade weapons. It could be said that the king of many treasures was extremely terrifying. He had treasures for defense, attack, close combat, and long-range combat. However, it was a pity that he encountered it. No matter how powerful Lin Xian's treasures were, they couldn't be compared to the great dragon sword soul. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. It would be more convenient for him to fight in the future. With so many treasures thrown out by him, he estimated that they could smash an elite supreme figure to death. Then, Lin Xian put away the storage rings, stood up, and said, "Okay, let's go back and meet up with the 8th prince." The result this time was good. He obtained the Jade Talisman King token and many storage rings. It could be said that it was a great harvest. Calculating the time, Lin Xian felt that it was about time to meet up with the 8th prince. The 2 old men said, "Lin Gongzi, there seems to be something in the relic we explored." "Oh?" Hearing this, Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. The old man in blue said, "Indeed, although the relic was damaged, it wasn't completely destroyed. There should be treasures in it. That's why we were chased by the first prince's 3 men." "I see. Since that's the case, let's go and take a look." The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up. He had never seen what the ruins inside looked like. Therefore, he was curious. After discussing for a while, the 5 of them decided to set off immediately. Whoosh whoosh. Then, they rode on beasts and flew out of the relic quickly. A day later, they arrived at their destination. It was a barren mountain. There were weeds all around and it was very chaotic. There were even beasts roaming around. However, when the 5 of them arrived, their powerful aura suppressed the surroundings, causing the weaker beasts to run away. For a while, they didn't receive any attacks. "Where's the entrance?" After landing, Lin Xian asked, then he started to look around. The 2 old men said, "There's a cave in front. There was a seal previously, but we broke it open." "Indeed." Lin Xian walked forward. After walking for about 200 meters, he saw a cave that was 2 meters tall. It was very hidden and there were vines all around. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't have noticed it. Moreover, there was a trace of energy left on it. It should have been left behind when the seal was broken. "Let's go in and take a look." Lin Xian nodded, then took the lead and walked in. As he took a step forward, a black armor appeared on his body and covered him. After all, he didn't know what was going on inside. Chapter 2082. When the 4 people behind him saw this scene, they also put on their armor and carefully followed behind Lin Xian. It was a little dark inside, but the 5 of them were glowing like the sun. Therefore, when they entered, the inside was completely illuminated. This should be the Moonlight Ruins. The woman in red took out a map and looked at it. As they were talking, cracking sounds suddenly came from under their feet. Then, lines of formation patterns lit up. In an instant, they covered the entire cave. Accompanying them was an extremely terrifying aura. The aura was extremely terrifying. It was as if a god was quickly awakening. At the same time, the woman in red and the other 3 discovered that their cultivation and strength were suppressed again. It was even more terrifying than when they were outside. "Damn it, what is this place? I feel like I've been suppressed by 60%. Damn it, this place is too evil. Should we go out?" The 2 old men also felt their scalps go numb. However, when they wanted to retreat, they discovered that many figures had appeared around them. There were dozens of people densely packed together, surrounding them. Those people stood there like statues. They were all wearing silver armor. A terrifying aura surged out from their bodies. "Oh no, these are silver-armored guards. I have to leave quickly." When the old man in black saw this scene, his scalp went numb. In the next moment, he shouted in a low voice and activated his king's domain, wanting to break out of the encirclement. However, his strength was severely suppressed now, so his combat strength was much weaker than before. Meanwhile, the silver-armored guards around them were increasing in number. At the same time, their bodies were also emitting a silver light that intertwined with each other, forming an extremely terrifying sky curtain that quickly pressed down on the 5 people. Damn it! Seeing this, the woman in red, the middle-aged man, and the 2 old men gritted their teeth and frantically activated their king's domains to resist. However, soon, their king's domains emitted cracking sounds, and even the light dimmed. What should we do? The 4 of them looked at Lin Xian anxiously. They had no choice. They really had no other choice. They could only pin their hopes on Lin Xian. That was because they knew that Lin Xian's strength was extremely powerful. Even if he was suppressed, he would probably far surpass them. Lin Xian retracted his gaze and sighed slightly. Make your move. Just now, he had already used his soul power to scan the area. Apart from a few stalks of spiritual herbs and some supreme-grade subdivine crystals, there was nothing else. Other than that, there was nothing else. It seemed that even though the ruins still existed, it was likely that someone had already explored them during the Crown Prince competition. Perhaps, the treasure had been taken away by someone else. Therefore, the remaining items were of little value. Lin Xian sighed at the thought of this. In the next moment, a sharp light burst out from his eyes. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body began to circulate crazily, releasing a monstrous amount of sword chi. Suddenly, a dragon roar sounded. The dragon sword's spirit domain cherished an azure dragon, roaring in all directions. With a flick of its tail, all the silver-armored guards around it were blown away. What? How could he be so strong? The red-clothed woman and the other 3 were all dumbfounded when they saw this scene. How could Lin Xian's king's domain be so powerful? This aura was too shocking. Could it be that the other party wasn't affected by the suppression here? One had to know that they were all elite almighties. They could tell at a glance that the other party's aura was definitely at his peak state. However, their strength had been suppressed by 50 to 60%. How could the other party be at his peak state? This was simply unbelievable. Could it be that this kid hadn't been suppressed at all before? No wonder he was so powerful. These people swallowed their saliva. They felt that Lin Xian must have some secrets on him. However, everyone had their own secrets. Even if they investigated, they wouldn't be able to find out. Boom! 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 At this moment, the ground began to tremble again. An even more terrifying aura was rapidly recovering. It was as if a huge monster was about to come out. This aura was too terrifying. Even Lin Xian's expression changed. He hurriedly said, "Hurry up and leave this place." The red-clothed woman and the other 3 hurriedly nodded. Their faces were also pale. In their current state, they couldn't resist this aura at all. Therefore, the 4 of them hurriedly fled outside. Lin Xian brought up the rear. When the 4 of them left, a shocking light burst out from his eyes. Without saying a word, he directly sent out the great dragon sword soul. Immediately, a dragon-shaped sword shadow appeared in front of him. Then, Lin Xian held the great dragon sword soul and activated the dragon sword domain with all his strength. He slashed down with his sword. A fierce azure dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it rushed underground. The earth-shattering explosion completely destroyed the entire cave. Boom! The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Everything within a radius of 10,000 miles collapsed. The red-clothed woman and the other 3 had just escaped the cave and heaved a sigh of relief. However, immediately after, their faces turned pale again. That was because they felt an even more terrifying and violent aura surging out from the cave. It was as if it was going to tear the entire world apart. "Oh no, run!" They hurriedly rushed into the sky and into the clouds. Sure enough, the moment they left, the ground below suddenly collapsed, and a terrifying bottomless abyss appeared. A violent energy tore through the void. Seeing this scene, the 4 of them felt their scalps go numb. They desperately fled into the distance. However, they were very worried about Lin Xian. They were afraid that something would happen to him. But soon, they heaved a sigh of relief. Because they saw Lin Xian also rushed into the sky and turned into a stream of light. What's going on? Could it be that the ruins below have been destroyed? Heavens, how is this possible? The four of them were stunned. One had to know that they were all older generation figures who had lived for 1 or 2,000 years. They had all heard of the Crown Prince battle. Even if the ruins here were emptied, it would not be damaged at all. However, now, Lin Xian directly destroyed a ruin with a single move. This was really a big move today. If news of this were to spread, it would probably shock the entire world. Damn, this kid is too heaven-defying. The four of them looked at the shocking scene below, and were speechless. However, these people did not know that when they entered the moonlight ruins below, a group of people also entered at another entrance. It was a group of 6 people. The person in the lead was a handsome young man. Behind him were 5 powerful almighties. 7th Prince, this should be the moonlight ruins. From the looks of it, although the moonlight ruins are quite damaged, there should be a lot of good things inside. If we can get it and strengthen ourselves, we might be able to compete with those people. Chapter 2083. Hearing this, the 7th Prince's eyes lit up. Indeed, he was not very strong, so his strategy was to find all kinds of ruins to increase his strength. The moonlight ruins was their first stop. The 6 of them were all excited and quickly walked inside. However, halfway through, they suddenly felt a shocking vibration under their feet. Then, a different aura was quickly awakening. It was like a peerless monster that made one's scalp tingle. Not good. Sensing this scene, the 7th Prince and the others' expressions changed. Just as they were about to retreat, an even more violent spiritual aura erupted. It rushed over from the front. Accompanying it was a terrifying dragon's roar. Then, in the next moment, the sky collapsed, the void shattered, and the ground sank. The berserk energy rushed towards them like a madman. Damn it, get out of here! When the 7th Prince and the others saw this scene, their expressions changed drastically. In the next moment, they no longer cared about the treasures and all fled into the distance. Boom! The 7th Prince was protected by 2 peerless experts. Finally, they escaped by a hair's breadth. However, the moment they left the cave, the 2 mighty figures at the back were swept by the aftermath of the energy, and were directly cut in half at the waist. Seeing this scene, the 7th Prince and the others' scalps tingled. They did not dare to stay there, and quickly fled into the distance. At the same time, they were shocked. What kind of existence was it? What kind of energy shockwave could directly kill a mighty figure? Terrifying, it was indeed too terrifying. They suspected that there were peerless experts fighting inside. However, they did not know who exactly it was. According to the 7th Prince and the others' guesses, it should be the top powerhouses of the princes. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the others to release such terrifying power. On the other side, in the Grand Imperial Hall. Ever since the second stage of the Crown Prince battle began, the current Emperor, the Empress, the royal elders, and the princes had not left. They all entered the Grand Imperial Hall to watch. The Crown Prince battle had been passed down since ancient times in the Tai dynasty. It could be said that until now, it was very perfect. They could see the scene inside from outside. As expected, there was a huge light screen above the Grand Imperial Hall that shone down. It showed the situation of the second stage. It was divided into many different regions, and in each region, there was a prince. In other words, the traces of the 15 princes had been completely seen by these people. Although it wasn't very clear, at least he knew the general situation. Needless to say, these princes had to have something special on them for these people to see. As for the people who had left the prince, such as Lin Xian and the others, their names were not shown. At this moment, the elders and experts of the royal family, including the current emperor and empress, were all looking at the screen of light. Because this would determine who would become the crown prince. Other than His Majesty, these royal family elders, princes, and experts all belonged to different factions. The princes they supported were also different. At this moment, they were naturally paying close attention. Was that the third prince? He actually found such a complete ancient ruin. The elders who supported the third prince, on the other hand, smiled. The first prince actually went to the ruins. Wasn't that the place where the current emperor went before? There were also people who exclaimed. Upon hearing this, the queen revealed a satisfied smile. Of course, she was the one who reported this information to the first prince. As the queen, she had much more information resources than the other princes. Therefore, the first prince was also far superior to the other princes. The eighth prince wasn't simple either. Exclamations of surprise were heard. The seventh prince actually went to such a remote ruin? I remember that this is the Moonlight Ruin, right? There shouldn't be much left inside. Seeing the seventh prince's actions, many royal elders sneered. But soon they were stunned. Because they realized that the ruin where the seventh prince was had suddenly expanded. Then, it exploded and turned into nothingness. Even through the screen of light, the experts of the Grand Imperial Hall could feel the violent energy storm. What was going on? What happened? Why did the Moonlight Ruin suddenly explode? Everyone was stunned and didn't dare to imagine it. Ruins could be excavated and emptied, but there had never been an explosion. What exactly had happened? All of these elders and princes were completely stunned. Even the Empress and His Majesty were frowning. It couldn't be helped, they had never encountered such a thing. Could it be that an accident had happened in the Moonlight Ruin? Or the array had exploded and caused a series of explosions? Was that why it happened? It didn't seem like it. Why did it look like it was man-made? Another royal elder frowned. Man-made? That was impossible. To destroy such a ruin, one had to be at least an almighty level. None of the people who entered this time were almighty. Moreover, after entering, their cultivation was suppressed. They didn't have the strength to cause such great destruction. Everyone was discussing. In short, there were all kinds of guesses. However, there was no evidence. The sacred emperor also frowned. The source of the explosion was too far away from the seventh prince. Otherwise, he might have been able to find some clues. On the other side, the moment the Moonlight Ruin exploded, Lin Xian used the Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps and quickly left. However, when he left, he discovered that there were dozens of silver-white light spots below. They were like fireflies that quickly flew into his body. What was that? Lin Xian was shocked and wanted to resist. However, he discovered that the silver light spots were all very pure energy and were not harmful to him. On the contrary, they were very beneficial. Thinking of this, Lin Xian no longer resisted. He used the longevity incantation and quickly absorbed the energy. Could it be that these silver light spots were produced by the silver armored guards? He discovered that the number of silver light spots was about the same as the silver armored guards. However, he didn't know what exactly it was. However, his cultivation had increased a little. From the looks of it, if he was lucky enough to plunder a few more ruins, he might be able to break through and reach the late-stage 6-star king realm. In the next moment, the woman in red and the others met up with Lin Xian. Then she asked, "Lin Gongzi, what should we do?" Lin Xian looked at the time and decided to go back and meet up with the 8th prince first. Indeed, it was time for Lin Xian to go back. On the other side, the 8th prince and the others had also met up. Among them, the 8th prince also explored a ruin and obtained many good things. On the other side, Taoist Master Long obtained some treasures. He even fought with the other princes and defeated them. However, he didn't obtain the Jade Talisman King token. However, they soon frowned. Chapter 2084. However, they soon frowned. That was because they realized that Lin Xian's team had not returned yet. What's going on? It's been more than a day. Why haven't they returned yet? Could it be that they encountered an accident? Those people were extremely puzzled. Indeed, it had been more than a day since the scheduled time. Logically speaking, they should have returned. However, there was no sign of them yet. That forced them to think more about it. An older person said in a deep voice, "I think it's not very reliable to let a young man be the team leader. Why don't we let an older person be the team leader? After all, in terms of strength and experience, young people can't compare to him." Indeed, I think so too. Many of the elders thought so. They felt that the reason why Lin Xian's team did not return this time was because Lin Xian was the team leader. Something must have happened along the way. Therefore, they decided that after the team returned, they must change the team leader. They could not let a young boy lead the team. That way, the danger was too high. After another half a day, 5 figures could be seen in the distance. They're here. Seeing that, Taoist Master Long opened his eyes. The other King Realm Almighties also raised their heads and looked over. The 5 silhouettes landed beside them in an instant. They were Lin Xian's team of 5. Seeing that Lin Xian and the others had returned without any casualties, the 8th prince heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Taoist Master Long frowned and asked in a deep voice, "What's going on? Why did you come back so late?" Lin Xian shrugged. "It's nothing. I encountered a ruin on the way and was delayed for a while." "Humph. Young people really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you know that your delay of a day and a half has a huge impact on the 8th prince?" At that moment, an elder snorted coldly. The other elders also said, "That's right. How can a young man like you be the team leader? Why don't we change the team leader? Taoist Master Lon, why don't you be the team leader?" Then, those people looked at the blue-clothed elder beside Lin Xian. If it were before, the blue-clothed elder would have been very excited. But now, he hurriedly shook his head. "No, no, no. My abilities are limited. I'm not as good as Lin Gongzi. Therefore, Lin Gongzi should be the team leader." What was going on? Everyone was stunned when they saw that. It was completely different from the Taoist Lon they knew. What had happened in the middle of all this? In the next moment, they looked at the black-clothed old man. The old man in black also hurriedly shook his head. "I don't have the ability either. I unconditionally support Lin Xian to be the captain." "So are we." The middle-aged man and the woman in red nodded quickly. This scene caused everyone to be stunned. This was especially true for the older generation figures. They were all stupefied. Heavens, what's going on? They believed that this group was extremely disharmonious. At the very least, the 2 elders were not convinced. But now, it seemed that there was no such thing. These 4 people, 4 powerful almighties, were all obedient to this kid. They didn't even have the slightest intention of resisting. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. Taoist Long was also extremely surprised. What on earth had happened? He really couldn't figure it out. Only the 8th prince smiled with satisfaction. He knew Lin Xian's strength. These people must have been stunned after seeing Lin Xian's strength. That was why they had such a reaction. Indeed, the 8th prince's guess was right. These people were indeed stunned after seeing Lin Xian's strength. However, his guess wasn't comprehensive. He didn't know that the moonlight ruins had been split open by Lin Xian's sword. Otherwise, he would have been stunned like these people. Since these people in Lin Xian's team didn't object to Lin Xian being the team leader, the others naturally couldn't say anything. Moreover, they now realized that although Lin Xian's team had returned late, the 5 of them weren't injured. As for the remaining 2 teams, more or less, some of them were injured. Some of them were even seriously injured. After all, whether it was exploring the ruins or fighting with other powerhouses, it was extremely dangerous. However, why weren't Lin Xian's team injured? This made them very puzzled. However, some of the older generation sneered. They weren't injured. "I think it's because they're hiding." "That's right, we explored the ruins and defeated other powerhouses. We spent so much effort, but we didn't expect someone to be lazy." Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. It seemed that some of the old guys were not convinced by him. He sneered. However, at this time, the woman in red and the middle-aged man beside him couldn't stand it anymore. What did they mean by they were lazy? They had also explored an ancient ruin, and had even obtained 3 jade tokens. Therefore, in the next moment, the woman in red snorted. "We were lazy? You've contributed a lot? Then I want to know, what contributions did you make?" She was so angry that she asked such a question. At this time, a person beside Taoist Long said. We encountered the 12th prince and the 6th prince's people and defeated them. We also heavily injured 3 powerhouses. 4 of them were lightly injured, and we also obtained 3 storage rings. An old man beside the 8th prince said. We explored the heavenly jewel ruins and obtained many treasures. Hearing this, the woman in red sneered. Oh, is that so? Then, how many jade tokens did you obtain? The Crown Prince battle was a competition of the number of jade tokens. Hearing this, the old men stopped talking, and their faces turned red. That was because they did not obtain a single jade token. TSK. Seeing this, the woman in red sneered disdainfully. What was there to be arrogant about when they did not obtain a single jade token? However, they soon sneered. No matter what, we obtained a lot of good things. I'm afraid you didn't even obtain a single good thing. They did not obtain the most important jade token, so they could only change the topic and look down on Lin Xian and the others again. At this time, the 8th prince also frowned. All right, we're all on the same team, so stop arguing. However, the woman in red snorted coldly. Who said that we didn't obtain anything good? We explored the Moonlight Ruins. We encountered the 1st prince's subordinates, the Tianhe Great Ancestor, and the King of Many Treasures, and successfully killed them. What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. None of them dared to believe it. You killed the King of Many Treasures and the Tianhe Great Ancestor? They knew that those 2 powerhouses were very terrifying. Especially the King of Many Treasures, who had countless treasures on him. Even if someone could suppress him, it would be very easy for the King of Many Treasures to escape. Therefore, they sneered. What kind of joke is this? How could the King of Many Treasures be killed? Chapter 2085. You don't believe me? Why don't you ask the 1st prince if Lord of Many Treasures and Lord Tianhe are still alive? The lady in red snorted and said. Not only Lord of Many Treasures, but we also encountered Devil Blade King's team of 5 and defeated them. Our Lin Gongzi even cut off one of Devil Blade King's arms. Of course, the most important thing is that we got Devil Blade King's jade token. What? Even Devil Blade King was defeated? Everyone was even more confused when they heard that because Devil Blade King was more terrifying than Lord of Many Treasures and Lord Tianhe. They were even more in disbelief when they heard that. One of the elders sneered. Nonsense! How could you defeat so many experts? To be honest, they did not dare to believe that the 8th prince's team could have succeeded. Because the 8th prince's team. They were all elite pinnacle mighty figures. However, Lin Xian's team. How could it be? They did not believe it at all. However, Lin Xian sneered. It was time for him to make a move. In the next moment, he waved his hand and a long green saber floated in the air. This is? Everyone was stunned as they looked at the green saber. Then, they were all stunned and gasped. That's Devil Blade King's treasured saber. Why is it here? Could it be that he really defeated Devil Blade King? Everyone was shocked. Devil Blade King was a swordsman. He lived with his saber, and died with his saber. If Devil Blade King was not defeated, how could Lin Xian obtain the terrifying saber? Damn it! How did he do it? They could not believe it at all. Lin Xian sneered and waved his hand. Suddenly, a large green cauldron appeared in the air and crushed everything. Then, a large purple umbrella appeared and shone brightly. That's Lord of Many Treasures' treasure! Another person exclaimed. This time, even Taoist Long and the 8th prince were astonished. From the looks of it, the King of Many Treasures must have been killed. Instantly, the 2 of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Taoist Long was shocked and could not believe it. The 8th prince was also very surprised. Although he knew that Lin Xian was very strong, he didn't expect him to be this strong. Just this battle record alone had already surpassed the total of their 2 teams. However, what made him even happier was yet to come. In the next moment, Lin Xian put away all the Dharma treasures and took out 3 jade Buddha King tablets. 8th Prince, these are the 3 Jade Buddha King medallions I obtained from Devil Blade King. What? Jade Talisman Ace. It really was the King Jade Amulet. Everyone was stunned, and they all looked over. Sure enough, they saw 3 Jade Buddha King tablets floating in the air. The 8th Prince's face was also overjoyed. No matter how many treasures there were, it was useless because the most important thing in the second level was the Jade Token. As long as he could obtain the Jade Token and become the Crown Prince, with the strength of the Tai dynasty, what kind of heaven and earth treasures could he not have? However, either of their teams had obtained the Jade Talisman Suit's trump card, while Lin Xian had. And it was 3 pieces. This made the 8th Prince extremely happy. Brother Lin, well done. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, don't worry, when we return, I will definitely fulfill any of your requests. The 8th Prince was overjoyed. As for the others, they looked at Lin Xian in shock. This was especially true for the older generation figures. Each and every one of them was stunned. The corners of their mouths twitched, and many of their faces turned ugly. This was because they had looked down on Lin Xian and did not believe him. They thought that he was lazy and did not deserve to be the team leader. But now, everything that Lin Xian had done had far exceeded their expectations, even their imaginations. They could not accept it at all. This was a slap to their faces in public. And they could not fight back. On Lin Xian's side, the lady in red and the other 3 were also very happy. Looking at the ugly faces of the people around them, they felt very satisfied. These old guys had looked down on them, and now they had been slapped in the face. Of course, they knew that all the credit belonged to Lin Xian. Therefore, they were even more in awe of Lin Xian. What should we do next? At this moment, Taoist Master Long also took a deep breath to suppress the shock in his heart, and then asked. The 8th Prince said, Now the top 3 are us, the eldest prince and the 3rd prince. The eldest prince and the 3rd prince are extremely powerful and are not weaker than us. Especially the eldest prince, he has the Golden Lion King. Therefore, there is no need for us to clash with them now. What we need to do is to sweep away the other weaker princes. We need to snatch their jade talismans and trump cards to increase our own strength. At the same time, we need to explore more ancient ruins. After all, the things inside are also very precious. Let's do this. We will first search the periphery and then head towards the center. Hearing this, everyone nodded. This was indeed the safest way at the moment. At this moment, an elder asked, Should we still follow the current group and move separately? I think we should move together. Although we will have to explore fewer places this way, if we move together, no matter who we encounter, we will have a 100% chance of winning. Because there are very few people like us who move together. Taoist Master Long expressed his thoughts. The others' eyes also lit up. Yes, if they moved together, even if they encountered elites like the eldest prince and the 3rd prince, they would be able to kill them smoothly. However, if they split up, it would be different. They might be killed. Therefore, many people agreed to this idea for their own safety. However, at this moment, Lin Xian said, I think this method is safe but too conservative. Why don't we send a small vanguard team and use the advantage of having fewer people to launch a sneak attack and explore all kinds of ruins? If there is no one scouting outside, it is indeed inappropriate. This was a good idea. The 8th prince nodded while the other elders frowned. But who should they send? Although it was convenient to have fewer people, it would be difficult to escape if they encountered other groups. Everyone was taken aback and turned to look at Lin Xian. Everyone looked at him strangely. Lin Xian smiled faintly. Indeed, the reason why I made this request is because I am prepared to do this. However, I need 2 people. 2 people. Brother Lin, who do you want? Just tell me. He was quite confident in Lin Xian's strength. With Lin Xian around, even if they couldn't defeat him, they would still be able to escape. When the time came, they could escape to protect themselves. It was still possible. Lin Xian looked around and scanned these people. When the elders saw this scene, their bodies trembled and they hurriedly lowered their heads. Some of them even took 2 steps back. What a joke, they didn't want to act alone. Otherwise, if they encountered a powerful enemy, they wouldn't even be able to escape. Therefore, they didn't want to be with Lin Xian. When Lin Xian saw this, he raised a look of disdain. Chapter 2086. A look of disdain appeared on Lin Xian's face when he saw this. Then he said, "How about this? I'll find 2 people of similar age. Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing." "What? Only 2 young sky brides?" The 8th prince, Taoist Long, and the others were stunned when they heard that. The older generation figures were even more stunned. Initially, they were afraid that Lin Xian would pick them and ask them to go alone. However, they did not expect that Lin Xian would only pick 2 young sky brides instead of them. Would it be dangerous if 3 young people were to go together? Taoist Long also frowned slightly. He said, "Why don't we reconsider? I think it's a good idea. There's no danger." Lin Xian shrugged and looked at Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing in the crowd. "What do you think? Do you dare? What's there to be afraid of?" Duan Qingqing smiled. Lu Fei did not say anything. He stood out and walked towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian smiled when he saw that. "Don't worry, 8th Prince. With the strength of the 3 of us, even if we encounter danger, we can still retreat safely. I can guarantee that." "All right then. Be careful." The 8th Prince nodded. Since Lin Xian had said so, he could only choose to believe him. The others were a little stunned. It was too bold and risky to let 3 young people form a team. Most likely, aside from Lin Xian, the other princes would not do such a thing. Lin Xian discussed with Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing for a while. Then, the 3 of them left quickly. "Lin Xian, did you really kill the King of Many Treasures? And injured the King of Devil Blade?" Duan Qingqing asked curiously after they left. She was indeed too curious. With her strength, she could not understand the situation at all. Lin Xian smiled and said, "You'll know whether it's true or not after some time." He didn't explain too much to the 2 of them. After all, as long as they were with him, as long as they encountered more enemies and he killed 2 more King Tiers, these people would most likely believe him. Plus, the reason why he chose these 2 was because they were both Heaven's favorites and had witnessed his performance in the first round. Therefore, he wouldn't be like the other elders who were suspicious of him. As expected, the 2 of them took Lin Xian's words seriously. But soon, Duan Qingqing frowned. "Lin Xian, that's not right. Where are you taking us?" There was a group of demonic beasts ahead. Lu Fei also spoke up. "That's right, Brother Lin. Could he have gone the wrong way?" "No, it was directed at the group of demonic beasts. Don't you think it's too exhausting for us to fly like this? Later, we'll catch 2 demonic beasts and let them fly. That will save us a lot of effort." "What? You want to capture demonic beasts? Heavens, what's the use of catching them? We can't tame them." Duan Qingqing couldn't understand. Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have a way to tame it. Do you remember the demonic beasts I was sitting on? They were tamed by me." "What? You tamed it? Could it be that you're a beast tamer?" Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei were surprised. Then they remembered that Lin Xian defeated the Herculean king in the first stage with a soul power attack. This also meant that the other party's soul power was very strong. Therefore, the other party might really be a beast tamer. Thinking of this, the 2 of them were shocked. But soon, they became excited. If they could really find demonic beasts, it would definitely save them a lot of energy. So thinking of this, the 3 of them couldn't help but speed up. Soon, they arrived at the valley below. These were red-eyed demonic wolves. These wolves were very fierce. "Brother Lin, are you confident?" Lu Fei looked down and asked in a deep voice. "There shouldn't be a problem." Lin Xian looked down, his eyes flashing. "After a while, I'll go find the Wolf King. You guys help me block the surrounding wolves. There's no need to defeat them. Just pin them down. Give me half an incense's time and I'll succeed." "Okay." Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing nodded. As long as they could restrain the wolves below, they could still do it. Then, let's start! Lin Xian shouted in a low voice, then stomped his foot. His entire body turned into a sharp sword light and instantly rushed out. His speed was very fast. He turned into a series of afterimages, cutting through the void and flying forward. When he landed previously, he used his soul power to investigate and found out the direction of the Wolf King. So at this moment, he directly set off towards the target. The Wolf King was inside a cave, but there were demonic wolves guarding the cave. 2 demonic wolves, 5 meters long, emitting a biting cold demonic aura. Their eyes were red and they were lying on both sides of the cave. From the looks of it, they looked like human guards. In the next moment, they suddenly opened their eyes. In their blood-red eyes, there was a terrifying light. Then, the 2 demonic wolves suddenly turned around and stared at a figure in front of them. Then, the 2 red-eyed demonic wolves became angry. Human, there was actually a human who dared to break into their territory alone. He was courting death. At that moment, the 2 red-eyed demonic wolves quickly attacked. They did not allow humans to enter. They did not allow humans to disturb their king's rest. The red-eyed demonic wolf on the left opened its mouth and spat out a green wind blade. The wind blade rotated in the air, turning into a blade-like gale and slashing forward. Wherever it passed, the void shattered. The momentum and energy were extremely terrifying. The other demonic wolf spat out a ball of fiery red flames, turning into a sea of fire that filled the sky and rolled forward. Boom, boom, boom! The 2 energies were too violent. In an instant, the void in front of them was shattered. Buzz! Lin Xian did not hold back. He pulled out the demonic sword and slashed down. The sharp sword light split the void into 2 halves. The terrifying wind blade and sea of fire were split from the middle, creating a vacuum. Whoosh! In the next moment, Lin Xian quickly passed through the vacuum and arrived in front of the 2 red-eyed demonic wolves. The 2 red-eyed demonic wolves were stunned. They did not expect the human in front of them to be so fast. He broke through the encirclement. He arrived in front of them. But then, in their blood-red eyes, a hint of ridicule appeared. The other party actually dared to fight them in close combat. He was courting death. As demonic beasts, their physiques were extremely powerful. It was definitely not something these people could imagine. So in the next moment, the red-eyed demonic wolf on the left raised its claws and slapped forward. And the one on the right opened its bloody mouth and bit forward. It was as if it could bite through the void and swallow the entire sky. Boom! However, Lin Xian did not dodge. He quickly swung his sword twice. Then, a huge wolf claw flew into the sky. Blood spurted out. On the other side, Lin Xian pierced through the demonic wolf's head with his sword. In an instant, the 2 red-eyed demonic wolves were killed, and blood dyed the ground red. At this moment, an angry roar came from the valley in front. Then, a black shadow quickly pounced over. Chapter 2087. Clang! Seeing this scene, Lin Xian raised his sword to block, and an earth-shattering sound immediately rang out. Then, his entire body was knocked back. At the same time, the goddess of ice appeared on his body, blocking the powerful force. Therefore, although he was knocked back, he was not injured. However, an angry roar came from the front, and this roar alarmed all the red-eyed demon wolves in the valley. Many red-eyed demon wolves gathered in this direction and quickly attacked Lin Xian. Attack! In the distance, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei roared angrily. The 2 of them opened their king's domains and fought against the red-eyed wolves. For a moment, no red-eyed wolves came near Lin Xian. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. In the next moment, he turned his head to look at the red-eyed wolf king in front of him. This red-eyed wolf king was very huge, about 10 meters long, and the aura it emitted was incomparably terrifying. Its eyes were blood-red, and as it roared, the surrounding void quickly shattered. Valiant! Too valiant! Lin Xian snorted when he saw this scene. In the next moment, golden runes appeared in his eyes. Heavenly secret divine eyes, floating light. As his voice fell, a golden light flew out from his eyes and pierced forward. Immediately, the red-eyed Wolf King in front of him roared and became abnormally violent. Its limbs kept slapping, creating countless black holes and cracks on the ground. The demonic aura on its body swept out, turning into streaks of smoke that tore through the void. The blood-red color in his eyes turned into two seas of blood. As they surged, they carried a monstrous killing intent. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly, and the golden light in his eyes became even more powerful. Floating light was an illusion of the heavenly secret divine eyes, used for control. This illusion was not invented by him, but was a divine ability contained in the bloodline power of the heavenly secret divine eyes. At this moment, when Lin Xian used it, it was extremely terrifying. Therefore, in an instant, the terrifying red-eyed Wolf King also fell into a struggle. However, after struggling for a few seconds, the demon Wolf King became abnormally quiet. He was no longer mad, and his demonic chi was much calmer. Even his blood-red eyes were filled with respect as he looked at Lin Xian. Seeing this, Lin Xian smiled. Then, he said coldly and lay down. Immediately, the huge body of the red-eyed demon Wolf King slowly crouched down. Lin Xian took a step forward, arriving on top of the red-eyed demon Wolf King. Then, he sat on top of it with a smile on his face. He knew he had succeeded. The next moment, he patted the Wolf King's head and said indifferently, "All right, tell your subordinates to stop attacking." Roar! In the next moment, the red-eyed demon Wolf King roared towards the sky, emitting waves of howls. Immediately, the other red-eyed demonic wolves in the valley quieted down and stopped attacking after hearing this. Seeing this scene, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei heaved a sigh of relief. Their backs were drenched in sweat. This was because these red-eyed demon wolves were very terrifying when they joined forces. The king's domain that they formed together was about to shatter. Fortunately, at this moment, the attack stopped. Soon, they turned their heads and were extremely shocked. This was because they saw a mighty red-eyed demon Wolf King standing in the distance. The demonic chi emitted from the other party's body shocked them. However, there was actually a figure sitting cross-legged on such a terrifying demonic beast. Lin Xian, it was Lin Xian. The two of them cried out in surprise. They didn't expect that Lin Xian had really tamed the red-eyed demon Wolf King. The two of them stepped lightly and turned into streams of light, arriving near Lin Xian. Then, Duan Qingqing asked in surprise, "Lin Xian, how did you do it? Are you really a beast tamer?" "Of course." Lin Xian smiled. "I've already told you guys that I'm a beast tamer. Taming this kind of demonic beast is nothing difficult." At this moment, the golden light in his eyes had already disappeared. He wouldn't let these two know that he had the heavenly secret divine eyes. The next thing was much easier. Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing each rode a 5-meter-long red-eyed demon wolf. Lin Xian rode the Wolf King, and the group set off into the distance. It wasn't just these three, because Lin Xian had tamed the Wolf King, and the Wolf clan was a pack animal. Therefore, not only the three of them left, the entire wolf pack followed and set off quickly. "We're rich this time." Duan Qingqing sat on the back of the red-eyed demon wolf and looked at the red-eyed demon wolves walking together. She was incomparably excited. That exquisite little face was filled with boundless excitement. At the side, Lu Fei also heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, it was too dangerous for the three of them to move together. If they encountered a terrifying demon king or other teams, they would be in great danger. They were afraid that they would be doomed. But now, it was different. Although there were still only three of them, there were dozens of powerful red-eyed demon wolves. This way, the disadvantage of their lack of numbers was made up for. Not only that, their combat strength had also become incomparably powerful. Duan Qingqing was even more excited. With such a huge team, she really wanted to find someone to practice with. Why didn't anyone come looking for trouble? Damn, what was this girl trying to do? Hearing this, Lin Xian rolled his eyes. On the other side, Duan Qingqing took out a red mirror from her storage ring. It was the size of a palm. Then she poured her spiritual power into it and quickly pinched it. At the same time, she muttered, "Let me see who's nearby." That simple and unadorned mirror emitted a faint red light. Then the image changed, and a few figures appeared on the mirror. Haha, there really were people! When Duan Qingqing saw this scene, she was in a good mood. She said, "Let me see which unlucky person has been targeted by me. You also know that he's unlucky." Hearing this, Lin Xian and Lu Fei's mouth twitched slightly. At this moment, Duan Qingqing was slightly surprised. It's the seventh prince." "What, the seventh prince? You didn't see wrong." Lu Fei was shocked. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. He did not expect that there would be a prince nearby. Originally, he did not intend to pay attention to Duan Qingqing. After all, this kind of thing was enough for Duan Qingqing to play by herself. But now, it was different. There was a prince, so he had to make plans. The princes carried the most Jade Buddha King tokens with them. The benefits of robbing a prince were definitely huge. Thinking of this, Lin Xian smiled. He turned his head and asked, "Where is he? You want to make a move too?" Hearing Lin Xian's question, Duan Jingjing became even more excited. She said, "He's in the front left, about 35,000 miles away." 35,000 miles, no wonder. Although Lin Xian's soul power was strong now, he could only explore a radius of 10,000 miles. If it was further away, he would need to use special means, such as the heavenly secret prodigy, or the magic treasure in Duan Qingqing's hand. Chapter 2088. Of course, as his soul improved, this range would continue to expand. "How many people are there?" Lin asked again. Duan Qingqing said, 6 people. The seventh prince was ranked at the back, so he could only bring 10 people in. So no matter how he distributed it, there wouldn't be too many people around him. 6 people was already a lot. "Brother Lin, should we make a move?" At this moment, Lu Fei asked in a deep voice. To be honest, robbing a prince was an extremely exciting thing. Although the seventh prince's ranking wasn't high, he was still a prince after all. His own strength was strong, and the people around him were even more terrifying. They were all top supreme experts. 6 people were too many, and they couldn't win. Lin Xian shook his head. Indeed, even though he had dozens of demon wolves by his side, if he were to really fight against the top supreme experts by the seventh prince's side, it would probably not be enough. Duan Qingqing also sighed. What should he do? Should he give up? This was a good opportunity. Lin Xian laughed. Give up? That was impossible. Let's keep an eye on them first, then I'll go tame some demon beasts. When there are more than 50 of them, these people probably won't have any advantage. Good. Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei nodded, and then the 2 of them controlled the demon beasts, and slowly moved forward. Lin Xian soared into the air, and when he was high up in the sky, he used the heavenly secret divine eye, and scanned the surrounding 50,000 miles. Very quickly, a smile appeared on his face. Because he had discovered another group of demon beasts. It was a group of monkeys, but they were not ordinary monkeys. It was a large power King Kong ape. This kind of large power King Kong ape was extremely terrifying. It was famous for its strength, and with a raise of its hand, it could uproot huge mountains. Lin Xian's target this time was precisely them. He turned into a ray of light and quickly flew forward. At the same time, he released the snow-white little monkey and the crimson dragon. There was no one around, so he let the 2 of them out. However, if there were others, he wouldn't let the 2 of them out. After all, the snow-white little monkey was incomparably magical. If it was targeted by the imperial family, it would probably be in danger. The crimson dragon was even worse. That was a dragon. And these people from the royal family cultivated the aura of the Tao of dragons. If they saw a real dragon, they would probably pull out its tendons and skin and dissect it for research. Therefore, for the sake of safety, Lin Xian would not let them out. The 2 of them were also very tactful. When they knew that there was no one outside, they also came out. Then, the Crimson Dragon screamed. Damn! Benwan was suffocating. Damn it, they actually cultivated the Tao of Dragon Aura. Who did they think they were? Would he be able to cultivate the Tao of Dragon Aura just because he had taken over the Dragon Vein? Benwan was the real dragon. Wooji Snow White Marquis stood at the side, cheering for Red Mystical Dragon. After an Hong God Dragon came out, she laughed weirdly while flying. Kid, do you want to do something big and snatch the Dragon Vein of the Tai Yi dynasty? Hearing this, Lin Xian rolled his eyes. Damn, you're too bold. If he were to snatch the Dragon Vein, countless warriors in the entire Tai Yi dynasty would probably fight with their lives on the line for you. Of course, if you have the chance, you can secretly absorb a bit of dragon qi. It was impossible to directly snatch the Dragon Vein. The Tai Yi dynasty was an existence that was even more terrifying than an ordinary sacred ground. Although Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were powerful, it was impossible for them to directly fight against an imperial court. However, he could secretly absorb a bit of dragon qi to strengthen himself. This kind of thing could still be done. How about this? The two of you will act alone. There are many ancient ruins here, the two of you go and search for some. I won't go with you. Good idea. Benwan had wanted to do this for a long time. Following that, the Crimson Dragon brought the snow-white little monkey and tore through the sky, disappearing into the sky. As for Lin Xian, he flew towards the direction of the large power King Kong ape. As for the safety of those two fellows, he was not worried at all. The strength of those two fellows was not inferior to his at all. Furthermore, both of them were very slippery. Especially the Crimson Dragon, he was an old fox. He reckoned that even if he was in danger, the other party would not be in danger. Very quickly, Lin Xian used the Heavenly Secret Divine Eye and used the Floating Light Illusion technique to directly control the leader of the large power King Kong ape. Then, he once again controlled the entire group of demon beasts. He rode the group of large power King Kong ape back the way he came. On the other side, the seventh prince led 5 supreme experts, and quickly moved forward. The seventh prince's eyes lit up as he asked excitedly, "Is the news confirmed? Is there really a amethyst snow dragon ginseng in front of us?" Beside him, an old supreme expert laughed. "That's right, the seventh prince, the news is absolutely confirmed. However, there is an extremely powerful demon king beside the treasure, so we need to be careful. It doesn't matter what the demon king is, I have enough people with me." This time, he had to get the purple gold blood ginseng. The seventh prince was extremely excited. To be honest, he was quite depressed before, because it was not easy for him to enter the Moonlight Ruins. He originally thought that he would be able to obtain a great treasure. However, he did not expect that before he could even see the treasure, the Moonlight Ruins would explode, causing him to lose 2 supreme experts. If it wasn't for the fact that he had brought so many experts with him, he would have died there as well. Therefore, this made him extremely depressed. However, a few days later, he received news of the amethyst snow dragon ginseng. This was an extremely precious spiritual medicine. Furthermore, to be able to grow here, it must be at least 3,000 years old. This kind of thing was extremely beneficial to increasing the cultivation of a king. Even if he couldn't become the crown prince, if he could increase his strength by leaps and bounds, it would still be a perfect result. Therefore, he was extremely excited. He quickly rushed over with a group of people. Sure enough, there was a purple halo in front of him, emitting a dense aura. Needless to say, it should be the purple gold blood ginseng. As expected, there was also trouble. Beside the purple gold blood ginseng, there was an 8-clawed evil dragon. It wasn't a real dragon, but it had a trace of the dragon's bloodline. Therefore, it was extremely berserk. "Attack!" Seeing this scene, the seventh prince coldly shouted. Immediately, the 5 supreme experts beside him released their incomparably terrifying king domains, enveloping the area in front of them. A great battle erupted, shaking the heavens and the earth. On the other side, at a place very far away, Duan Qingqing also frowned. She softly said, This seventh prince's luck is really not bad. He actually found another treasure. Oh, what treasure? Lu Fei, who was at the side, was also extremely puzzled. He came over to take a look. He saw that on the simple and unadorned mirror in front of Duan Qingqing, there was an image of the seventh prince, and the eight-clawed evil dragon fighting fiercely. From the looks of it, it should be the purple gold blood ginseng. Lu Fei was also extremely shocked. Although he couldn't see it clearly, that purple light was extremely similar to this legendary spiritual medicine. Aya, this is really a good thing. Why isn't that Lin Xian here yet? If he comes, we can snatch it. Duan Qingqing waved her small hands, extremely excited. Chapter 2089. However, they did not dare to go up now. After all, with their little strength, they were probably not enough to deal with the seventh prince and the 5 elite warriors. On the other side, in the Grand Imperial Hall, the Emperor, the Empress, the royal family elders, the prince, and the others also saw this scene through the huge crystal light screen. Although they had mocked and sneered at the seventh prince's unlucky situation. But at this moment, they also exclaimed. He had to admit that the seventh prince was quite lucky to have found a purple golden blood dragon. Yes, even if the seventh prince had no hope of becoming the crown prince. But with this amethyst snow dragon ginseng, his cultivation would probably increase a lot. This could also be considered a kind of opportunity. The people who supported the seventh prince clapped their hands and laughed. Even the emperor in front nodded his head slightly, expressing his satisfaction. However, was the seventh prince really lucky? They did not expect that at this moment. There was an even greater danger surging towards the seventh prince. Lin Xian controlled more than a dozen power King Kong apes and quickly rushed over. These power King Kong apes were like giants, running on the ground. Every time they ran, the ground trembled, and countless cracks spread out in all directions. Soon, they arrived at their destination. Nearby, Duan Qingqing and the others had already felt the ground trembling. She and Lu Fei immediately looked into the distance. When they saw the dozen or so huge power King Kong apes, they were extremely shocked. Heavens! This was a power King Kong ape? This was a very terrifying demon beast, a demon king who could throw mountains with a raise of his hand. Who would have thought that it would be tamed as well? Not to mention Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei, even those red-eyed demonic wolves had goosebumps, and their eyes were blooming with blood-red light. They even let out a series of roars. That was because they instinctively felt threatened. But fortunately, whether it was the demon wolves or the power King Kong apes, they were all controlled by Lin Xian. Therefore, it was impossible for the two to fight. After feeling the initial threat, the hostility between them was eliminated under Lin Xian's control. Of course, under normal circumstances, the two clans would probably fight to the death. How is the situation? Lin Xian jumped down from the power King Kong Ape King and asked. Lin Xian, you're finally here. I was worried sick. Duan Qingqing said anxiously. This seventh prince's luck was really good. He found a precious spirit herb and was now fighting with the guardian demon king. Let's go quickly. Otherwise, it would be a waste if this guy ran away or ate it. Good. Lin Xian nodded and said. You two take the red-eyed demon wolf and go first. I'll follow behind. He did this for a reason. The red-eyed demon wolf was very fast, and its body was not big, so its movements would not cause much of an impact. However, these large power King Kong ape were different. As they ran with all their might, the ground trembled and cracked, as if there was an earthquake. He was afraid that the other party would have already sensed his presence before he even arrived. However, Lin Xian was not without a solution. He found a spatial scroll in the storage ring of the King of Many Treasures. This was an extremely precious treasure. It was equivalent to a spatial teleportation array and could allow one to teleport instantly. If he hadn't instantly killed the King of Many Treasures, the other party would have escaped again. Therefore, he could make use of this spatial scroll now. He first gave the spatial jade tablet that represented the coordinates to Duan Qingqing and told her to take it with her. At that time, Duan Qingqing would crush the spatial jade tablet and lock onto the coordinates. Lin Xian would then be able to use the spatial scroll. Following that, Lin Xian and the large power King Kong ape waited quietly. As for Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei, they controlled dozens of red-eyed demon wolves and quickly set off. On the seventh prince's side, the 5 supreme experts working together were extremely terrifying. They fought until the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, all the mountains were shattered. Cracks began to appear in the sky. In the end, the huge demon king let out a wail and was torn into pieces. "This is great." Seeing this scene, the seventh prince revealed a smile. In the next moment, he waved the fan in his hand and walked forward with a smile on his face. 1 step, 2 steps. He walked very slowly, his face full of confidence. In his opinion, this was already a certainty. The amethyst snow dragon ginseng was definitely his. Buzz. However, in the next moment, he was stunned. Because the void cracked open, and a long sword quickly slid down from the sky and then fixed itself on the ground. Boom! The ground sank, and countless cracks instantly spread in all directions. Seeing this scene, the seventh prince's face darkened. The faces of the surrounding almighties changed. Then, one by one, they exclaimed, "Who is it? Get out here!" At the same time, a terrifying soul power surged out and probed the surroundings. They were too shocked. They did not expect that someone would intercept them at this time. Could it be that it was a powerful team sent by a powerful prince? Thinking of this, they were extremely nervous. Whoosh! However, in the next moment, a figure floated down from the sky, accompanied by a chuckle that sounded like a silver bell. It was indeed the amethyst snow dragon ginseng. "That's great. I didn't expect to see this treasure," the figure that came down said with a smile. Everyone around them was stunned. The seventh prince frowned. He sneered. "Little girl, this is something that Ben Wang has taken a fancy to. How dare you snatch it? You really don't know what death is. How about this? I'll give you a chance. Obediently submit to me and be my servant. I can spare your life." The seventh prince raised his chin and looked down at her condescendingly. When the supreme experts of the Grand Imperial Hall saw this scene, they were all stunned. What's going on? A young girl dares to go against the seventh prince alone? Isn't she courting death? Isn't this the girl beside the eighth prince? She's a young genius. Why is she here now? And she's acting alone? Could it be that the eighth prince is coming? The elders and supreme experts were all confused. As for the supreme experts supported by the seventh and eighth princes, they were all extremely solemn. They stared at the crystal light carefully, and their eyes flickered. The seventh prince and the 5 supreme experts around him also recognized the other party's identity. Then, they became a little nervous. However, when they used their soul power to check and found that the eighth prince was not there, they all sneered. She dared to come here alone. She's courting death. Thinking of this, the seventh prince snorted coldly. I advise you to surrender obediently. Who said that I came here alone? Duan Qingqing sneered at this moment. She was fully prepared this time. How could she come here alone? In the next moment, she clapped her hands lightly. Suddenly, roars could be heard from afar. Following that, dozens of black shadows rushed over from all directions. Those black figures were very fast. They tore through the void like lightning and arrived nearby in a few flashes. Chapter 2090. What is that? Seeing the dozens of black shadows, the seventh prince and the other almighties were shocked. Heavens, could it be that the princes had joined forces to kill them? If that was the case, they would be dead meat. In the Grand Imperial Hall, those people were extremely nervous, but when they saw the true appearance of the black shadows, they were all stunned. Because they did not expect that these things were not humans, but demon wolves. Red-eyed demon wolves. That's right, they were indeed red-eyed demon wolves. It was Lu Fei who rode these red-eyed demon wolves and quickly surrounded the seventh prince and the 5 almighties. These were the beautiful demon wolves, the native beasts of this space. Damn it, they could actually control the demon beast here. Could it be that they had an extremely powerful beast tamer? Seeing this scene, all of them were shocked. Even the seventh prince had a solemn expression. To be honest, he had beast tamers on his side, but they could only tame individual demon beasts to allow them to fly or run. However, it was impossible for them to cover such a large area. How did they do it? They were extremely shocked. However, the seventh prince sneered. I admit that your strength has exceeded my expectations. You can actually control dozens of demon wolves. However, your strength is not enough to deal with me. This time, I have brought 5 elite almighties. You can't fight against these red-eyed demon wolves. The seventh prince was right. When the 5 elite almighties joined forces, it was extremely terrifying. Although there were many of these beautiful demon wolves, their combined strength was not comparable to the combined strength of the 5 almighties. Moreover, the seventh prince was not someone to be trifled with. He was also a top-notch genius. Therefore, when comparing the two forces, the seventh prince's side still had the upper hand. Moreover, the advantage was very obvious. At the thought of this, the seventh prince and the 5 almighties sneered again. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the elders and experts were also discussing this. Among them, the elders who supported the seventh prince snorted coldly. The eighth prince had really miscalculated. How could he send such a team? Did he really think that 2 young men and a pack of demon wolves could defeat the seventh prince's elite team? What a joke! The experts on the side of the seventh prince sneered, while the people on the side of the eighth prince frowned. What was going on? This was not the eighth prince's style. To be honest, they were also very confused, but at this moment, they could only wait patiently. Moreover, from the crystal screen in front of them, they could see that the eighth prince was working together with a group of people. In other words, apart from Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei, there was another young genius named Lin Xian in the eighth prince's team. But even with Lin Xian, there were only 3 youngsters. For the seventh prince, it was simply unable to cause a fatal impact. This made them even more confused. As for the empress, the corners of her mouth curled up into a mocking smile. This old 8 was really daring. He actually only sent 3 youngsters outside. She really didn't know what he was thinking. How could such a reckless person become the crown prince in the future? Hearing this, even the emperor frowned slightly. The empress, on the other hand, was even happier. As the mother of the first prince, she naturally didn't want the eighth prince to stand out. But now, the strongest competitors of the first prince were the eighth prince and the third prince. Now that the eighth prince had made a strategic mistake, she naturally wanted to seize this opportunity to suppress him. This caused the eighth prince's image in front of the emperor to plummet. And now, it seemed that she had achieved her goal. In the space, the seventh prince and the 5 experts couldn't wait any longer. The seventh prince waved the folding fan in his hand impatiently and said, "Seniors, let's do it. Capture the 2 of them for me? Little kid, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think that you can defeat us with just a few wolves? You're too naive. You want to compete with us? Go back and cultivate for a few hundred years." The 5 elite experts sneered and quickly walked towards Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing. Duan Qingqing's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. She was not nervous at all. In the next moment, she raised her hand and gently crushed the space jade in her hand. When Duan Qingqing crushed the space coordinates in her hand, on the other side, Lin Xian sensed it. Immediately, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. In the next moment, he waved his hand and the space scroll opened. Immediately, the power of space completely enveloped him and the dozen or so power King Kong apes. Then, they merged into the void and disappeared. Boom! On the other side, near Qingqing, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the space. Then, more than a dozen figures flashed out. Boom, boom, boom! As soon as these people landed, countless cracks appeared on the ground. As if an earthquake had occurred, the distant mountain peaks collapsed. What was going on? There were still people. Seeing this scene, the seventh prince was stunned. The 5 elite experts around him were stunned. Inside the Hall of Supreme Harmony, those princes and elders were all stunned. They really didn't expect that Duan Qingqing could call for help. This was a space scroll. Heavens, she actually used this kind of thing! An elder exclaimed. And on the 7th prince's side, his scalp went numb. The reason being that he had sensed several terrifying auras approaching rapidly. In an instant, the entire space froze, pressing down on them so hard that they couldn't breathe. The 5 elite experts who wanted to make a move were also stunned. They frowned and their expressions became extremely solemn. Because they had already seen clearly what had appeared. It was an incomparably handsome young man with a dozen or so power King Kong apes. F***CK. Seeing this, the 5 elite experts had the urge to curse. They really couldn't imagine how the other party could control so many demon beasts. First, there were dozens of demon wolves, and now there were more than 10 power King Kong apes. With such a powerful group of demon beasts, and 3 young geniuses, it was enough to contend against them. No, it wasn't to contend against them, but to completely crush them. Even though there were only a dozen or so large power King Kong apes, their fighting strength was much more terrifying than the demon wolves. Especially since the other party's strength was great, and his defense was extremely strong. If these 2 groups of demon beasts went berserk together, they wouldn't be able to defeat them. Thinking of this, the 5 supreme experts stopped attacking and turned to leave. The 7th prince was also so angry that he stomped his feet. He was about to go crazy from anger. One had to know that he had brought people with him to find the amethyst snow dragon ginseng with great difficulty, and he had also defeated the peerless demon king who was guarding the heaven and earth treasure with great difficulty. Just as he was about to get the treasure, he didn't expect that so many people would suddenly appear. He couldn't accept it. He really couldn't accept it. Chapter 2091. He had led his men and found the amethyst snow dragon ginseng with great difficulty. Then, he had defeated the supreme demon king who was guarding the heavenly treasure. Just as he was about to get his hands on the treasure, he did not expect that there would be so many people coming out of nowhere. He couldn't accept this. He really couldn't accept this. But what could he do even if he was unwilling? The monster horde that the other party had brought was too powerful. Even if he had 5 elite almighties with him, it was not enough. Even if he fought with the other party at all costs, he would suffer heavy losses even if he could fight back. And the other party would only lose the monster horde. But this kind of monster horde could be caught as long as there was a beast tamer. So no matter what, they would be at a disadvantage. Go! The 7th prince gritted his teeth and made a plan. Finally, he decided to retreat. Want to leave? Seeing this, Duan Qingqing sneered. Then, she led a dozen monster wolves and rushed forward. They blocked the way. On the other hand, Lin Xian waved his hand and carefully took the purple golden blood dragon ginseng. Then, he urged the power King Kong apes to rush forward. Get lost! When the elite mighty beings beside the 7th prince saw this, they roared out in rage and struck out immediately. They had to leave quickly. Otherwise, they would be in danger if they were surrounded by the monster horde. In the next moment, the king domain soared into the sky and turned into bright lights, shaking the surroundings. As for the monstrous beasts, they were roaring in anger. The sky was torn apart mercilessly in an instant, and the entire space exploded. The battle broke out, and it was very intense. Everyone used their ultimate skills with all their might. On the other side, in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, many elders and princes looked at the crystal screen, and the corners of their mouths twitched. Those who supported the 8th prince were originally worried, but when they saw this scene, they all laughed. As for the powerhouses who supported the 7th prince, their faces darkened as they gritted their teeth so hard that they were about to break. Surprise, it was too much of a surprise. They did not expect that the other party would have a space scroll and could tame so many monster horde. Damn it, how were these 3 young people? Together with the monster horde, it was definitely a powerful lineup. Ordinary elite almighties could not compete with them. Damn, where did the 8th prince find such a powerful beast tamer? The others were even more shocked. They were all experts, so they naturally knew the strength of a beast tamer. But it was precisely because they knew that they were shocked. An average beast tamer would have no problem taming 1 or 2 demon kings. But how many of them were there? There were at least 50 of them, right? To tame so many of them, one had to be at the level of a supreme being. However, the other party had managed to do it. How did he do it? They couldn't believe it. Furthermore, even now, they were still unable to determine which beast tamer had done it. The Empress's face darkened when she saw this. To be honest, she was a little worried. This was because the effect of the 8th Prince's team was simply too shocking. She was very worried. If the first prince encountered him, would he be able to contend against him? Beside him, the Emperor nodded his head slightly. At first, he thought that 8th brother was too reckless and arrogant. But now, it seemed that this was not the case at all. The other party must have planned this. It was indeed not bad to have such a plan and strength. Therefore, the Emperor nodded and smiled. On the other side of the battlefield, it was extremely intense. The sky fell and the earth cracked, exploding in all directions. However, in the end, the 7th Prince and the others were still defeated. Because no matter how strong they were, they still had to take care of their own injuries. But at this moment, under the control of Lin Xian, those beasts seemed to have gone crazy and charged forward without any regard for their lives. Under such a reckless battle, the people on the 7th Prince's side simply couldn't do it. There were even 3 elite supreme beings who were directly beaten to the point of vomiting blood. Of course, the result of these 5 supreme beings and the 7th Prince joining forces was also very terrifying. A few power King Kong apes were directly blown up and turned into a bloody mist. There were even more than 10 demon wolves that were split into 2 halves. Blood dyed the ground red, and the pungent smell of blood enveloped a radius of 10,000 miles. It was like a hellish azure field. However, the remaining power King Kong apes and demon wolves were even crazier. And in Lin Xian's eyes, mysterious golden runes would appear from time to time. Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei were even crazily attacking. Both of them were peerless geniuses with powerful strength. At this moment, they cooperated with these beasts and joined the battle. The power was even more terrifying. Damn it! I'm so angry! The 7th Prince was so angry that he went crazy, but those elite supreme beings' faces were gloomy. As they spoke, Qi Huanzi hurriedly threw out a few jade talisman trump cards to lure them away. Otherwise, we won't be able to escape. The 7th Prince gritted his teeth, his face gloomy and uncertain. He knew that his performance was now being watched by countless royal elders and princes of the Emperor's royal family. He was really unwilling to admit defeat just like that. Thus, he hesitated for a moment. Immediately, his injuries became even more serious. Although he had killed quite a few demon beasts, he really couldn't hold on any longer. In the end, the 7th Prince gritted his teeth and took out 3 jade talisman trump cards from his storage ring, throwing them in 3 different directions. He hoped to lure away Lin Xian, Duan Qingqing, and Lu Fei. Sure enough, when the 3 of them saw the jade talisman trump cards, they immediately chased after them. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 7th Prince and the others quickly escaped. Should we chase? Duan Qingqing asked, looking eager to give it a try. From the looks of it, she still wanted to chase after them. On the other side, Lu Fei was also a little excited. Lin Xian, on the other hand, smiled and said, "Forget it, we've already benefited greatly. Moreover, as a prince, he must have some life-saving means to participate in this kind of battle. Even if we go all out to chase after them, we won't be able to kill them. Besides, I don't really want to kill a prince. I'm not stupid enough to become enemies with the Tai dynasty." That's true. Hearing these words, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei stopped chasing after them. They comforted some of the remaining demon beasts, then looked at Lin Xian expectantly. "Lin Xian, we've put in a lot of effort this time. Can you give us some of that amethyst blood ginseng?" Duan Qingqing asked quickly. Lu Fei, who was at the side, was also looking forward to it. After all, it was a famous treasure. If they could take some of it, it would definitely be beneficial to their cultivation and strength. Lin Xian, on the other hand, smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't take it for myself." In the next moment, he took out the amethyst blood ginseng, then divided it into 3 portions and gave 2 of them to Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei. "You're not bad," Duan Qingqing said with a smile. After Lu Fei took it, he also said, "Brother Lin, thank you very much." Then the 2 of them sat on the ground and began to take the amethyst blood ginseng. On the other hand, Lin Xian did not take it directly. He took out a few more treasures, then took out the 10,000 bee sting and began to refine pills. Chapter 2092. Brother Lin, thank you very much. The 2 of them sat cross-legged on the ground and began to consume the pills. On the other side, Lin Xian did not consume the pills directly. He took out a few more heavenly treasures, then took out the 10,000 bee sting, and began to refine pills. While refining, he kept watch over the 2 of them. When Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei woke up, they immediately smiled. That was because they felt that the spiritual power in their bodies had become incomparably pure. Moreover, it had improved by a large margin. That made them extremely happy. All of a sudden, it was comparable to decades of their cultivation. However, when they saw Lin Xian refining pills, they were instantly dumbfounded. Duan Qingqing pouted. "Damn, you actually know how to refine pills. Why didn't you say so earlier?" She was really surprised. She did not expect Lin Xian to know how to refine pills. Although the effects were great after they consumed the pills raw, the effects would be even greater if they were combined with other heavenly treasures to refine pills. However, the 2 of them were really too excited, so they did not ask anything and ate the pills directly. At that moment, when they saw Lin Xian refining pills by himself, the 2 of them were a little stunned. Lin Xian also opened his eyes, then said with a smile, "You didn't ask. Moreover, you ate so quickly. I wanted to ask you, but I didn't have time." Damn! Duan Qingqing was so angry that she stomped her feet. On the other side, the corner of Lu Fei's mouth twitched slightly. However, the 2 of them decided that if they found any more treasures during this period, they would not eat them directly. Instead, they would give them to Lin Xian for him to refine pills. Lin Xian's pill refining skills were not to be trifled with. Very quickly, he finished refining the pills. He refined a total of 5 pills, each of which was crystal clear like a crystal. Lin Xian put away 4 of them, then took one and put it into his mouth. Immediately, a wave of pure energy emerged in his body and quickly cleansed his meridians. Feeling the energy, he nodded in satisfaction. "Let's go, let's continue." Duan Qingqing sat on the demon wolf and asked curiously, "Lin Xian, what family are you from?" "That's too perverted." Not only was his swordsmanship outstanding, he was also a beast tamer, and now, he was also an alchemist. "Don't tell me you're an all-rounder. Do you know anything about arrays?" Lu Fei was also very curious. To be honest, he and Duan Qingqing were both peerless geniuses and were very powerful. At such a young age, he already had the combat strength of a mighty figure. However, the 2 of them didn't know anything other than peak battle prowess. He did not know how to tame beasts, nor did he know how to refine pills. Of course, this wasn't their fault. After all, it wasn't just the 2 of them. The other exceptional heaven's favorites didn't know how to do it either. Only specialized beast tamers and alchemists would know how to do it. This was because alchemy and beast taming not only required talent, but also a special soul force. He still needed to spend a lot of time to study and master these things. Normally, they were all exclusive geniuses. Like alchemists, it was not that there were no young alchemists, but their battle prowess would not be stronger than them. It was the same for beast tamers. However, Lin Xian's alchemy, beast taming, and offensive prowess were truly rare. It could be said that he had never seen such a person before. After hearing this, Lin Xian also smiled and said, "I don't know if I'm an all-rounder or not, but I still know a little about arrays and restrictions." "Damn! You really know how to do it." Duan Qingqing's eyes widened as if she had discovered something new. She was very curious. Lu Fei, who was at the side, also felt dizzy. Damn, this is already an all-rounder. Brother, don't provoke us anymore. Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing were very depressed. In the end, the three of them quickly went on their way. Not only them, all the princes' groups in the entire space began to move. They crazily searched for the ruins and snatched the other princes' jade talismans and trump cards. Battles continued to break out. However, in terms of overall strength, the first prince, the third prince, and the eighth prince were the strongest. The first prince's side was divided into 3 teams. The Golden Lion King led a team alone, while the first prince and the Herculean King each led a team. The third prince's side was divided into 2 teams. One was led by the third prince, and the other was led by the first blade and an expert of the older generation. The eighth prince's side was very special. Although they had 2 teams, Lin Xian's side had very few people. There were only 3 young geniuses. Most of the strength was gathered around the 8th prince. Therefore, all the teams that encountered the 8th prince's team were defeated. Moreover, they were defeated quickly. As for the other princes, they all joined forces and prepared to fight against the 8th prince. After all, they didn't have much hope of becoming the crown prince. However, they didn't want to lose so unjustly and let the first prince and the others become the crown prince so easily. Therefore, they definitely joined forces to fight against the 8th prince. Although these princes were weak, when 2 or 3 of them joined forces, they were also a very terrifying force. Therefore, for a time, the competition between all sides was very intense. In the worst case, there were even elites who died. As for the ancient ruins here, they were even more determined to get it. However, a few strange things happened recently because of the appearance of 2 bandits. Many princes were robbed by them. The weaker princes didn't realize who the 2 bandits were at all. The stronger princes were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell out. Because they realized that the bandits weren't the other prince's men, but 2 demonic beasts. Heavens, could it be that these 2 demonic beasts had become demons? Among them, one of the 5th prince's team was an old man. His vision blurred and then he was directly knocked unconscious. Then, his head was hit a few times, and his head was full of big bumps. As for the heavenly treasure in his hand, it was directly snatched away. When he came to his senses, he was furious. Damn, where did these little bandits come from? I'm going to kill you! He roared crazily and scanned the surroundings with his soul power. When he saw 2 afterimages, he was so angry that his beard turned white. What did he see? A monkey and a red snake? Damn, these monsters had really become demons. Generally, when they entered this place, they were the ones who killed the demonic beasts. Even the powerful demon king couldn't resist their joint attack. But now, the 2 demonic beasts had started to rob them. How was this possible? He couldn't tolerate it. Therefore, the old man was enraged. He held a long saber and charged over. But a second later he was whipped back by a tail. Half of his face was swollen, and his teeth were broken. This time, his temper was completely gone from the beating. Although his opponent was a monstrous beast, and was only a snake, its strength far surpassed his own. Therefore, he could only vent his anger and smash the surrounding mountains and forests into pieces. Not only that place, but many other places also received the same impact. For a moment, everyone was shocked. There were even many people who wanted to chase down and kill these 2 monstrous bandits. However, they couldn't succeed at all. Chapter 2093. Because the 2 of them were very fast and very strong. That made so many groups and forces gnash their teeth in hatred. But in the end, there was nothing they could do. This shocking thief was naturally the Crimson Dragon and the snow-white little monkey. After the 2 of them left Lin Xian, they began to make their moves everywhere. Originally, Lin Xian wanted the 2 of them to explore various ancient ruins and obtain the treasures inside. However, after the Crimson Dragon and the snow-white little monkey discussed it, they felt that it would be too troublesome to do that. They still had to break through various formations, so they might as well just rob them. Therefore, the two of them attacked those groups and forces. But from the looks of it, the results were not bad. On Lin Xian's side, he still did not know about the actions of Roussillon and the snow-white little monkey. Otherwise, if he knew, his face would definitely be filled with black lines. Because this way, it was too high-profile and too eye-catching. If he was caught, he would definitely be cut into pieces and dragged out for research. Right now, he, Duan Qingqing, and Lu Fei were controlling two teams of demonic beasts and setting off. With the red-eyed demon wolf and the large power King Kong ape, they would be able to kill gods and Buddhas along the way. There was nothing that could stop their footsteps. However, when they crossed the mountain, the red-eyed demon wolf and the large power King Kong ape under their feet did not move forward no matter what. Even with Lin Xian controlling them with his eye technique, these demonic beasts were still crawling on the ground, their bodies trembling. What was going on? Seeing this scene, Lin Xian frowned. Did his eye technique fail? But that shouldn't be the case. Duan Qingqing also had a face full of doubt, and at this time, Lu Fei said, "Brother Lin, let them go. These demonic beasts all have their own territories. The place we came from before probably didn't have any stronger demonic beasts than them. That was why they were able to rampage all the way. Perhaps there was some incomparably terrifying demonic beast in front of them, or a group of demonic beasts that these two demonic beast races could not resist. In fact, they were not even allowed to enter their territory, so it was useless to control them. So that's how it is." Lin Xian nodded, understanding. This logic was not difficult to understand. Every demonic beast had its own territory, and other species of demonic beasts were not allowed to enter. Since that was the case, Lin Xian did not continue to control these demonic beasts. He, Lu Fei, and Duan Qingqing set off. They set off ahead. At most, he could just go to a new place and control new demonic beasts. As for the remaining large power King Kong ape and red-eyed demon wolf, they were separated by him to two different places. After an hour, the control over these demonic beasts would be dispelled and they would return to normal. Whoosh! Whoosh! As for Lin Xian and the other two, they set off once again. Lin Xian, there seems to be an ancient ruin nearby. The Big Dipper ruins seem to be here. Let's go and take a look. Lin Xian looked at the map, then the three of them quickly flew towards the Big Dipper ruins. Soon, they arrived at the top of a mountain range. In the mountain range below, there was a cave dwelling emitting a desolate and ancient aura. Although it was just a cave, there was a completely different world inside. It was equivalent to another world. This was a relic that had been passed down since ancient times. It was extremely mysterious. This should be the Big Dipper ruins. Lin Xian looked down. On the other side, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei's eyes also flickered. Soon they frowned. There seemed to be someone below. Let's go down and take a look. Lin Xian was the first to descend, followed by Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei. The three of them were like meteors as they quickly cut through the air and landed on the ground. Whoosh! There was indeed someone below. The three of them landed and attracted the attention of the people below. "Kid? It's actually you." When the people below saw Lin Xian, they were stunned for a moment before they sneered. They naturally recognized Lin Xian, because the two of them were two young men, and they were the fourth prince's subordinates. However, it wasn't Sword 13. It was you. Lin Xian, Duan Qingqing, and the other two also recognized each other, because he had seen them before in the first stage. However, Lin Xian didn't have much of an impression of them, because these two people weren't top existences like First Blade and Sword 13. Therefore, at the next moment, he said in a deep voice, "We've taken a liking to this ruin. You two should leave quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for starting a massacre." "What? You want us to leave? You even dare to start a massacre?" The two young men of the fourth prince were stunned, then they laughed in disdain. "Kid, I think water has entered your brain. This isn't the first stage. So what if you're strong? You're just a young man. Do you think only the two of us came this time? Let me tell you, our experts are all inside. Any one of the older generation experts can kill you in minutes. So kid, you'd better get lost quickly. Otherwise, when our experts come out, you'll be dead meat. There are more people? Hearing this, Duan Qingqing frowned. It seemed that these people had come prepared. Moreover, there might be many experts inside. Thinking of this, her eyes flickered and she asked in a deep voice. Brother Lin, what should we do? Should we retreat? No. Lin Xian shook his head. How could he give up such a good opportunity? Moreover, he had already used his soul power to check and found that there were only 3 people inside. It was a team of 5, but unlike the 7th prince's team, they were all top-notch almighties. Among the team of 5, at least 2 were young prodigies. However, Lin Xian didn't care about these 2 young prodigies at all. In other words, only the 3 people inside were a threat. Therefore, it wasn't impossible to fight them. In fact, he was very confident that he could beat these people away. Therefore, at the next moment, he looked in front and snorted coldly. I'll give you one last chance. Get lost or die. What? You're courting death. Hearing this, the 2 young men were enraged, and the aura on their bodies circulated rapidly. They were about to attack. However, Lin Xian sneered. Why, you want to fight me? Do you dare? No, they didn't dare to. Lin Xian's strength was far beyond theirs, and he could probably kill them instantly. Therefore, they really didn't dare to. Although the 2 of them had ugly expressions, they could only send a signal to the cave and ask the older generation to come and attack. There was an old man and 2 middle-aged men inside. They were all almighties, and at this moment, they immediately frowned when they received the situation outside. Isn't that Lin Xian the number 1 swordsman in the first round? I heard that even Sword 13 is no match for him? This kid has the title of the number 1 swordsman. Hearing this, a middle-aged man in black snorted disdainfully. What number 1 swordsman? It's just a title made up by a young man. No matter how strong his sword technique is, can it be stronger than mine? That's right, Brother Sun is right. He's just a young man who has only seen a few swordsmen, yet he's so arrogant. Indeed, he said indifferently. Why, Brother Sun, do you want to teach him a lesson? Chapter 2094. Of course, I have the same idea. Please break the restriction here while I go out and get rid of that kid. With that, the middle-aged man in black with the surname Sun turned around and strode outside. He was also an expert in the way of the sword. Naturally, he would not admit that a young man had taken the title of the number 1 swordsman. Moreover, his strength was above Jian Shisan's. Therefore, he was even more disdainful. Originally, he did not have the chance to meet him. Now that he saw him, how could he let him go? He would kill him with his own hands and let everyone know that the title of the number 1 swordsman among the younger generation was just an empty title. Just as the middle-aged man in black went out, the outside world noticed the change. That was because other than Lin Xian and the other 2, another group of people was rushing over. It was obvious that they were also here for the Big Dipper ruins. However, when they saw Lin Xian and the other 2 young men below, they immediately frowned. The other 2 young men also stepped forward and snorted loudly. Get lost! This is the place that the 4th prince has his eyes on. All unrelated people, scram! What? They are the 4th prince's men? Hearing this, the group of people above frowned even more. They were the 11th prince's men. Their strength was much weaker than the 4th prince's. However, there were only 2 young men on the 4th prince's side. How dare they scold them like that? They were really courting death. So what if you are the 4th prince? Do you think 2 young men can fight against us? There were 4 people above. One of them was an old man, 2 middle-aged men, and 1 young man. However, the 4th prince's men below sneered. The 2 of us naturally can't do it. However, in the cave, there are seniors from the Qiankun sword sect, the Great Compassion King, and the cloud-breaking hand senior Su. Who do you think you can beat? When they heard the names of these 3 people, their faces became extremely gloomy. No matter which of these three people it was, they could not beat them. They did not expect the fourth prince to have such a strong team. What should we do? Should we leave? They discussed for a while and wanted to leave. However, in the 11th prince's team, a young man pointed at Lin Xian and said, "Elder, they are not the 4th prince's men. They are the 8th prince's men. That person is Lin Xian. I know him." 8th prince's men! Hearing this, these people frowned even more. The 8th prince was even more terrifying than the 4th prince. They couldn't afford to offend such a person. However, the two young men below laughed and said, "There are only 3 of them. If you want to fight, we don't mind watching the show." What? There were only 3 people. Hearing this, the 11th prince's men were overjoyed. However, Lin Xian, Duan Qingqing, and the others frowned. What was the meaning of this? Were these people trying to sow discord? However, to dare to draw the flames of war to them, they really didn't know what was good for them. At this moment, one of the 11th prince's men spoke. Among them, the old man stared coldly at Lin Xian and the other 2. "Little dolls, since you've met them, you can only blame your bad luck. Do you have a king jade amulet? If you have it, hand it over quickly. On top of that, hand over all your storage rings and valuables. If you dare to hide even one, I will break your legs." Hearing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Duan Qingqing was enraged. "*CK, you old bastard, how dare you rob this great aunt?" She was furious. They were just the 11th prince's men. How dare they attack them? The difference between the 11th prince and the 8th prince was huge. On the other hand, Lin Xian sneered. "I do have a king jade amulet, but I don't know if you have the ability to take it." "What? You really have a king jade amulet?" Hearing this, the 4th prince's men were stunned. The 11th prince's men were even more confused. Then, they became excited. Originally, they were just asking casually because they didn't think that the other party had a king jade amulet. After all, how could 3 young people have such an important item? They didn't expect the other party to admit it. They couldn't help but be overjoyed. One had to know that a king jade amulet was important. It was more important than exploring the ruins. The 11th prince's men were tempted. They discussed for a while and decided to attack immediately. They didn't want the Big Dipper ruins, but they had to get the king jade amulet that Lin Xian and the other 2 had. In the next moment, the old man in the lead sneered. Suddenly, an extremely violent aura surged out of his body. It was like a vast ocean that swept across the entire world. "Oh no!" Sensing the aura, the 2 young men below changed their expressions and quickly retreated to distance themselves. This was because this aura was simply too terrifying. Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei also looked solemn because that old man was indeed powerful. The old man sneered and flipped out a large red hand. It passed through the clouds and grabbed downward. In an instant, Lin Xian and the other 2 were shrouded. "Damn it! How dare you attack the 3 of us?" Duan Qingqing was furious. Lu Fei also snorted coldly and was about to attack. However, at that moment, Lin Xian directly attacked. A black longsword appeared in his hand. He pointed it at the sky and stabbed it, shattering the void. Poof! That incomparably frightening gigantic palm that could shatter mountains and rivers was pierced through by this single slash of the sword before being sliced into 2. In an instant, the terrifying aura between heaven and earth disappeared, and so did the light that filled the sky. The sky was clear again, and Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. "You want to rob me with such strength? You're overestimating yourself. You're courting death." The old man was enraged and his eyes were shining with a terrifying light. His white hair danced wildly in the wind. He was an expert of the older generation, and as a mighty figure, his strength was extremely terrifying. How could he allow a young man to mock him in public? Therefore, in the next moment, he pulled out a blood-red saber and slashed down. Boom! The void trembled and the blood-red saber light shone as if a blood-red river was descending from the sky. Boom! Lin Xian sneered and quickly counterattacked. The black demonic sword in his hand transformed into an extremely mysterious trajectory. It immediately collapsed the void and collided with the blood-red saber light. Bang, bang, bang! The intense collision caused sparks to splatter. The sound of the collision was like thunder, causing the surrounding mountains to collapse and the ground to sink. However, what was even more shocking was that terrifying blood-red saber light was shattered in an instant. The black sword she was like a black dragon that roared incomparably. It quickly rushed towards the old man. Oh no! The old man's pupils constricted. He did not expect the other party to be so powerful. In the next moment, he opened his mouth and spat out a green shield in front of him. Bang! However, it was not very useful. The green shield was sent flying by the sword. In the next moment, the old man was so scared that his scalp went numb. He turned around and fled. Chapter 2095. Whoosh! He barely dodged this shocking sword strike, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. However, in the next moment, all the hair on his body stood on end. That was because Lin Xian's second sword was quickly approaching him. This sword was even more terrifying and terrifying. It directly cut the entire sky in half, and the sun and moon seemed to be on the verge of shattering. Ah! The elder tried his best to resist, waving out thousands of blood-red saber lights to form a defense. In fact, he was even wearing a suit of armor. However, it was useless. As the sword slashed down, countless saber lights were shattered and the defense was cut open. The elder was directly cut in half. Blood spurted out and dyed the sky red. This scene directly stunned the remaining 3 powerhouses on the 11th prince's side. The 2 young men on the 4th prince's side below were also completely dumbfounded. This level of combat power was simply too terrifying. Impossible! Damn it, how is this possible? His combat strength seems to be even stronger than in the first round. These people were about to go crazy. They did not know that in just a few days, Lin Xian had obtained the storage rings of several elite powerhouses. He had consumed all the treasures in the storage rings. Not long ago, he had also consumed the purple gold blood dragon ginseng and other treasures. With the support of so many treasures, of course his strength had increased. Furthermore, the 2 sword strikes from before were no ordinary sword strikes. Those were 2 sword strikes that Lin Xian had used the great dragon sword soul when he was serious. The other party had underestimated him, so how could he block it? In the next moment, Lin Xian's gaze turned and looked at the other 3 warriors. The 3 powerhouses immediately felt their scalps go numb, and they hurriedly said, "It's a misunderstanding, a complete misunderstanding. We definitely won't dare to do anything to you. We'll leave now." What a joke! The strongest elder on their side had been cut in half by the other party's 2 sword strikes. Even if all of them attacked together, they would not be enough. Therefore, these people hurriedly shook their heads. "You want to leave? Leave behind your valuables and I'll spare your lives." "Yes, yes, we'll stay here." The 3 cultivators hurriedly took off the storage rings on their hands, threw them into the void, and then ran away scared witless. Su Qin waved his hand and put the 3 storage rings away. At the same time, he also put away the old man's storage ring. The next moment, he turned around and stared at the 2 people behind him. "What are you trying to do? I'm warning you, don't mess around. Our elders and experts are inside." When the 2 young men saw this scene, their scalps went numb. Lin Xian sneered. "Don't worry, I won't kill you too. But your mouths are too cheap, so I naturally have to punish you." Pa! 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 With a wave of his hand, a gust of wind filled the sky. It tore through the void and slammed into the 2 men's faces. Oh! The 2 of them were slapped into pig heads in an instant. They fell to the ground and screamed incessantly. "If you dare to provoke me again, I'll kill you directly." The 2 young men were so scared that they quickly nodded and ran away as if they had gone mad. What a joke! The other party's methods were too powerful. They were beaten to the point where they didn't even have the strength to fight back. If they stayed any longer and angered the other party, they might really be killed by the other party's sword. Therefore, they could only run away. Lin Xian moved his feet. Let's go and take a look at the Big Dipper ruins. Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei followed behind him. Then, the three of them walked forward. However, when they were 5 meters away from the cave, an extremely violent airflow suddenly came from the cave. Then, it turned into a shocking sword ray and slashed fiercely. Oh no! Seeing this, Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing's pupils constricted. The two of them quickly retreated to the sides. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He tapped his feet and instantly disappeared on the spot. The next moment, he appeared on the other side. However, at this moment, Lin Xian's gaze was solemn. Like two divine rainbows, they pierced through the void and stared straight ahead. At this moment, a figure walked out of the cave in front of them. It was a middle-aged man in black. He had a cold smile on his face as he said calmly, "You managed to dodge my attack. You're quite strong indeed, to be able to dodge my attack. No wonder you're so arrogant. But your bit of strength is still not enough to look at in front of me. Kid, I heard that you have the Jade Buddha King token on you. Hand it over obediently and kowtow to me 3 times. Then I'll let you go. Otherwise, you'll end up miserable." Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. He asked coldly, "Who are you?" The other party was very powerful. He was much stronger than the old man from before. Moreover, he found that the other party was also using a sword. He was obviously a swordsman. "Who am I?" "They all call me the Qianquan Sword King. I heard that you just got the title of the #1 swordsman. However, you're too arrogant. Do you really think you can be the #1 swordsman with your strength? You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even I don't dare to call myself the #1 swordsman. What strength do you have to be the #1 swordsman? You'll know whether you're strong or not after you try." Lin Xian snorted coldly. There was a dazzling sword light on his body. Waves of powerful fluctuations quickly surged out like a vast ocean. Sensing this aura, the Qianquan Sword King also frowned. The other party had actually hidden his strength. It was indeed beyond his expectations. However, in the next moment, he snorted coldly and quickly waved the long sword in his hand. A dazzling sword light flew out. His sword qi caused the entire world to shake. This sword was truly terrifying. So powerful! In the distance, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei were also shocked when they saw this scene. "Should we go up and help?" Duan Qingqing asked. Her eyes were bursting with a sharp light. On the other hand, Lu Fei stopped her. "Don't make a move first. Let's wait and see. We're all geniuses. When we're fighting one-on-one, how can we allow others to intervene?" Lu Fei understood this point. That was why he stopped Duan Qingqing. In the face of the terrifying sword qi flying in front of him, Lin Xian also quickly waved the demonic sword in his hand. Streaks of sword light flew out. Each of them was as black as a mountain. They were like giant dragons dancing in the sky. The void was riddled with holes. Clang! The sword qi of the two people clashed in the air, producing an earth-shaking sound. Hell's Sword Lotus! Lin Xian quickly waved his sword qi. Then, a huge sword qi lotus was formed in front of him. On top of it, there were black flames dancing. Then, with a slash of his sword, the black sword qi lotus flew forward rapidly and spun continuously. Every time it spun, there would be a large amount of sword light. The blazing light shredded the entire void. Boom, boom, boom! The Qianquan Sword King felt the impact and kept retreating. He felt an immense pressure, which made him extremely shocked. He couldn't believe it at all. Previously, he thought that the other party was unworthy of his reputation. But now, he realized that the other party was really strong. He didn't seem to be weaker than him. This was especially true for the lotus flower in front of him. The sword qi it carried was extremely terrifying. Not only that, but there was also an incomparably terrifying flame that made him shudder with fear. Chapter 2096. Get lost! The Heaven and Earth Sword King roared, emitting a terrifying light. His eyes were like two lamps, shining in all directions. Heaven and Earth Sword Technique. He quickly waved the long sword in his hand, and the sword chi in the sky swallowed and emitted light, as if it had turned into a rain of swords. It emitted a fluctuation that made one's soul tremble. This was the Heaven and Earth Sword Technique, which was extremely terrifying. Once it was used, the sharp edge cut the entire void. Not only that, but the black lotus in front was also affected. It trembled violently, and the light on it dimmed a lot. Boom! At this moment, the Heaven and Earth Sword King gathered thousands of sword chi and slashed out, splitting the flame lotus in half. Then, the long sword in his hand turned into a bolt of lightning, piercing towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. His eyes flickered, and he fought back with all his might. The 9 underworld demonic sword in his hand exploded, emitting a terrifying power. Streaks of sharp sword light tore the sky. The two of them kept clashing, causing the entire world to explode. Fortunately, the Big Dipper ruins below were ancient ruins, which was extremely mysterious. That was why it could survive this storm. Otherwise, it would have collapsed like the other mountains. Heaven and Earth Sword Technique, Starlight Slash. At this moment, the Heaven and Earth Sword King roared. Suddenly, a huge blue sword light flew out like a comet across the sky, slashing towards Lin Xian. Whoosh! Lin Xian used Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps and dodged quickly. The terrifying sword light brushed past his body. Suddenly, the mountains in the distance were slashed into ruins. Although it didn't hit, the aftershock of the sword chi still made him activate the Ice Guardian. However, it wasn't over yet. The Heaven and Earth Sword King's black hair fluttered like a god of death. Streaks of terrifying sword light slashed over quickly. Each of them was like a shooting star, unusually sharp. The terrifying sword light that filled the sky made Lin Xian's face change. He had no choice but to fight back with all his strength. Boom! Another blue sword light brushed past Lin Xian's body and flew into the distance. It landed on 3 mountains in the distance, and directly exploded with a terrifying energy. A mountain that was thousands of feet tall was split in half. How terrifying! In the distance, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei's expressions changed. The Qiankun Sword King's attack was too clever. After comparing the two of them, they realized that the two of them couldn't win at all. Perhaps Lin Xian was the only one who could contend against him. Lin Xian did indeed feel a great deal of pressure. Honestly speaking, this Heaven and Earth Sword King was worthy of being a senior figure. He was even stronger than Sword 13, First Blade, and the others. At the next moment, his eyes emitted a terrifying glow, and a dragon sword domain appeared around him. It floated up and down as if there was an azure dragon circling around him. Boom! In the next moment, Lin Xian made his move. Another sword light slashed down. This sword contained the power of a king's domain, and it displayed a terrifying might. It was as if an azure dragon had rushed down from the sky. Not only that, but this azure dragon also had blue ice crystals on its body, giving off a terrifying chill. Everywhere it passed, the world was sealed in ice. The ice broke. All of a sudden, a thick layer of frost covered the entire area, as if it had turned into a world of ice and snow. The sword strike made the Cosmos Sword Gleam frown. He didn't expect that the other party's strength had increased again. This made him extremely shocked and in disbelief. Damn it, where was this kid's limit? Could it be that he was still hiding his strength? The Heaven and Earth Sword King was too shocked. He had already performed the Heaven and Earth Sword technique and even performed a few killer moves. However, he couldn't do anything to the other party. This was something he had never encountered before. Moreover, what shocked him even more was that the other party wasn't a senior figure, but a young man in his 20s. In the next moment, he also roared, and the terrifying power in his body surged out again. Heaven and Earth Sword, New Moon Scar. The Heaven and Earth Sword King held the sword with both hands, causing the long sword to rapidly expand, turning into a 1,000 feet long divine sword. With monstrous power, it slashed upward fiercely. Boom! 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 This attack caused the sky to collapse and the earth to crack, and ghosts to wail and wolves to howl. The terrifying vibrations were like 10,000 thunderbolts descending, completely shattering the entire sky. With the two of them as the center, all the mountains within 100 miles were instantly turned into powder. And within 1,000 miles, the ground sank, and the trees collapsed. Not only that, but the waves were also fast waves. In an instant, everything within 1,000 miles was plunged into chaos. As for Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei, they quickly rose into the air and retreated 10,000 miles away to watch the battle. They didn't dare to stay any longer. Because if they stayed here, they would be affected by the terrifying energy, and the two of them would probably be injured. Buzz! Buzz! On Lin Xian's body, a terrifying icy aura surged, freezing the surroundings. At the same time, a huge ice goddess appeared, spreading her wings to protect him, forming a powerful defense. Even the surrounding energy shockwaves were frozen. On the other side, a battle armor appeared on the Heaven and Earth Sword King's body. Not only that, but the sword light that filled the sky formed a sword curtain around him, blocking the terrifying energy shockwaves. Both of them were forced back 3,000 meters, and the blood in their bodies surged rapidly. However, at this moment, Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. Then, the power in his body rose again, and the great dragon's sword soul rumbled rapidly in his body. Soon after, flames appeared outside the ice barrier and danced about. Then, a huge flame giant appeared. It was 10,000 feet tall, bathed in flames, and roared into the sky, shattering thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. Following Lin Xian's action, a 10,000 feet long flame sword appeared in the flame giant's hand, emitting a monstrous divine aura. Fire God roar! The sword slashed down, annihilating the starry sky and shattering the mountains and rivers. The powerful sword she turned into a fire dragon, covering the sky and earth. Whoosh! Wherever it passed, the void cracked, and the ground was scorched black. Courting death. On the other side, the Heaven and Earth Sword King was furious. The other party actually dared to take the initiative to attack him, which was unforgivable. In the next moment, he roared and rushed over quickly with the Heaven and Earth Sword light in the sky. Boom! 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 The two of them exchanged blows, constantly colliding, causing the mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. However, at this moment, the great dragon sword soul in Lin Xian's body resonated again, turning into a dragon shadow that coiled around his body. The power of his sword chi erupted again. Boom! In the next moment, the Heaven and Earth Sword King was directly sent flying. The sword screen in front of him cracked, and LV Jianguang slashed his body, sending him flying. The Heaven and Earth Sword King vomited large mouthfuls of blood, looking miserable. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. How was this possible? How was this possible? How did the other party have such a powerful sword chi that was even stronger than his? He couldn't fight against it at all. He couldn't believe it. Up until now, the other party's strength had already increased 3 times, and each time, the sword chi was more terrifying than before. This made him feel like he had gone crazy. It was as if he was dreaming. However, the truth was right in front of his eyes, so he had to believe it. Damn it, how was this possible? Could it be that he had been hiding his strength from before, and this was his true strength? The Heaven and Earth Sword Light was extremely shocked. Who was the other party? How could he have such a terrifying sword chi at such a young age? No, could it be that the other party wasn't from the younger generation, but an elder in disguise? But that shouldn't be. Even an elder wouldn't have such a terrifying sword chi. Unless he was a peerless powerhouse. But that kind of figure couldn't enter this second round at all. The Heaven and Earth Sword King went crazy. He thought about it, and also couldn't figure out why the other party was so powerful. The next moment, he gritted his teeth and wiped the bloodstains from the corners of his mouth. His entire person was incomparably cold. Kid, you really infuriated me. Originally, I didn't want to use my full strength, but since you're courting death, then don't blame me. Heaven and Earth Domain. The Heaven and Earth Sword King also displayed his king domain. Immediately, the domain emerged, emitting a monstrous aura. It enveloped a part of the void. Now, the battle was over. The Heaven and Earth Sword King gave a cold cry and urged the Heaven and Earth Domain with all his might. Immediately, terrifying sword light surged to the sky, enveloping the entire sky. That unparalleled sword Dao aura turned into a series of terrifying rainbows, piercing through all directions. 10,000 miles away, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei watched this scene, and their scalps tingled. This Heaven and Earth Sword King's domain was so terrifying. No idea if Lin Xian could contend with it. Sure enough, within a radius of 10,000 miles, between heaven and earth, terrifying sword she crisscrossed, as if splitting heaven and earth, carrying a supreme aura. And in front was the Heaven and Earth Sword King floating. He opened his hands, and 10,000 sword chi surged out of his body rapidly, moving together with the entire Heaven and Earth domain. As if he was the ruler of heaven and earth, able to control the entire domain. The next moment, he brandished 10,000 sword chi, slashing forward. Tens of thousands of sword chi condensed, turning into one terrifying sword wave after another, rushing down. The surroundings were completely enveloped, and every part of space was incomparably terrifying, killing intent. Kid, do you see it? This is my king domain. No matter how strong you are, the gap in cultivation realm can't be made up at all. Now, let's destroy you in my domain. The corners of the Heaven and Earth Sword King's mouth curled into a hint of a cold smile. Chapter 2097. This scene was simply too terrifying. One had to admit that the Heaven and Earth Sword King's domain was incomparably terrifying, as if it could split heaven and earth apart. Humph! Lin Xian also snorted coldly. Holding the demonic sword in his hand, the combat power on his body was revolving to the extreme. In the next moment, his dragon sword domain also released an incomparably terrifying light. Then, it turned into a sharp light and blasted out fiercely. Boom, boom, boom! The two's king domains collided, causing the void to explode. Everything within a radius of 10,000 miles was completely devoured. Every part of the space was filled with terrifying energy. Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei retreated again because the place they were originally standing was directly shattered. Boom, boom! Right at this moment, the Heaven and Earth domain suddenly emitted a piercing light, and then it was torn apart. What? The Heaven and Earth Sword King's domain was split open? How was this possible? Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei were both stunned. Although they knew that Lin Xian was very powerful, they also knew that the other party could contend with the Heaven and Earth Sword Light. But they did not expect that Lin Xian was actually so powerful, splitting open the Heaven and Earth Sword King's domain with one sword. Was this heaven-defying? Boom! In the next moment, the Heaven and Earth Sword King vomited blood and flew out. His expression became incomparably ugly. There was not even a trace of blood on his face. Shocked, he was simply too shocked. That was his domain, his incomparably powerful killing move. But now, it was actually split open by a sword. Who was the other party? How could he be so powerful? In the next moment, he was scared out of his wits. This was because Lin Xian let out another long roar, and the green dragon sword domain flew over once again. Boom! In an instant, the Heaven and Earth Sword King was sent flying again, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Half of his body was already hacked apart. Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing were dumbfounded upon seeing this. The two young men from before were even more terrified. They knew how powerful the Heaven and Earth Sword King was. They did not expect that at this moment, he was actually seriously injured. Ah! The Heaven and Earth Sword King was sent flying, smashing onto the ground, causing countless cracks to appear. Next, he roared at the sky, incomparably crazy. However, in the sky, Lin Xian snorted coldly, took a step out, and charged over again. Seeing this scene, the Heaven and Earth Sword Monarch no longer dared to be angry. His expression became extremely ugly as he turned around and fled. What Qianquan's Sword King? He's just SOSO. How dare he compete with me for the #1 swordsman with such strength? Lin Xian sneered in disdain. Wielding his devil sword, he quickly charged over. Whoosh whoosh, the two of them turned into 2 rays of light and entered the cave one after the other. Seeing this scene, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei also moved their bodies and quickly followed. Inside the cave, there was indeed another space. It was extremely vast, far from being as ordinary as it looked from the outside. The terrain here was complicated, but the Qianquan's sword was very familiar with it. After all, he had been here before. He directly passed through the layers of caves and flew inside. Lin Xian coldly snorted and followed closely behind. There were many formations and restrictions inside, but they were all broken by the Qianquan's sword monarch and the other two. At this moment, there were 2 other powerful beings in the depths. They were the companions of the Qianquan's Sword King. One was Elder Great Sorrow Palm King, and the other was Senior Duan Yunhan Cloud. The 2 of them were currently focused on setting up a trap. At this moment, Duan Yunhan frowned and asked, "Why hasn't the Qianquan's Sword King returned after such a long time?" Great Sorrow Palm said, "What are you anxious for? Dealing with a brat, can you fail miserably? Don't worry, the Qianquan's Sword King is absolutely 100% confident. We just need to break the restrictions here properly." The 2 nodded, then quickly took action. Not long later they frowned, because they felt a violent energy fluctuation coming from ahead. Someone came in. This aura was the Qianquan's Sword King. Seeing this scene, the 2 laughed. "You see, didn't I say it? Dealing with a brat like him is as easy as blowing off dust." But in the next moment, they were stunned, because they discovered that it was indeed the Qianquan's Sword King flying over. However, it was different from what they had imagined. The current Qianquan's Sword King was in a very sorry state. Most of his body was beaten up, dripping with blood. His hair was disheveled, and there was no trace of blood on his face. It could be said that he was in an extremely sorry state. What's going on? How could this be? The Qianquan's Sword King was injured? When the 2 saw this scene, they were extremely shocked and could not believe it at all. Could it be that a peerless expert came? Or could it be that the other teams came? The 2 were extremely nervous because, in their opinion, someone who could injure the Qianquan's Sword King was definitely not an ordinary person. Perhaps it was a supreme powerhouse under the top 3 princes. Or an extremely powerful team could injure the Qianquan's Sword King. "Humph, where are you going?" Just as they were guessing, a cold snort came from ahead again. Then, a young figure entered their field of vision. "What's going on? A young man?" They were stunned. How could a young man be chasing after the Qianquan's Sword King? This was too illogical. However, when the Qianquan's Sword King saw Lin Xian's figure, his scalp went numb. He hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoists, this kid is too powerful. Help me stop him." As he spoke, the Qianquan's Sword King hurriedly took out a large number of heaven and earth treasures from his storage ring and quickly swallowed them. At the same time, he quickly repaired the broken half of his body. What? Could it be that this kid injured the Qianquan's Sword King? The other 2 powerhouses were stunned. What's going on? They knew the strength of the Qianquan's Sword King. He was extremely powerful and terrifying, not weaker than them. However, he was injured by a kid. Although they didn't quite believe it, looking at the Qianquan's Sword King's expression, it shouldn't be fake. However, Lin Xian also stopped here. He looked at the 3 people in front of him with flickering eyes, and then said coldly, "Fourth Prince, I'm sorry, but this place is already occupied by me. Hurry up and get lost." "What? Kid, don't be too arrogant. You're courting death. No one has ever dared to talk to me like that. You're the first, so you're dead meat." Hearing Lin Xian's words, the 2 powerhouses in front were furious. What a joke, a kid actually dared to tell them to get lost. This caused them to be extremely furious. In the next moment, cold killing intent appeared in their eyes, and a terrifying aura instantly enveloped the entire space like a tide. However, at this moment, Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei also arrived. When they heard Lin Xian's words, they also felt dizzy. Damn, what kind of joke is this? Is this guy crazy? How dare he challenge them directly? Didn't he see the two terrifying elite powerhouses in front of him? Neither of them was weaker than the Qianquan Sword King. How could they fight? Lin Xian said with a smile. Don't worry, the Qianquan Sword King is already crippled and can't exert much combat power. As for the other two, the two of you can fight one together, and I'll deal with the other one. Junior, you're too arrogant. Hearing that the other party was going to divide them up, the two powerhouses' faces turned black. Who were they? Were they ordinary people? They were terrifying elite powerhouses. They could destroy everything with a raise of their hand. However, at this moment, they were being looked down upon by three juniors. Were they going to die from anger? Therefore, they directly attacked. Kid, I'll let you know the consequences of provoking us. Among them, King Dabai snorted and attacked. Chapter 2098. The old man stretched out his hand and emitted a terrifying light. Then, he struck out with his palm. Merciful palm. Suddenly, a white palm appeared quickly. It was like the hand of a demon god, and terrifying energy surged. Like a tsunami, it swept across the sky. Not only that, mysterious runes appeared around the palm and began to rapidly revolve around it. It emitted a mysterious aura. Seeing this, Lin Xian snorted and slashed out with his sword. At the same time, he said loudly, "This old man is mine. I'll leave the other one to the two of you." With that, he ignored Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei and rushed up quickly. He swung his sword, and the terrifying sword she was like a divine red with a destructive aura. It crushed his void slash and collided with the giant white palm. Clang! Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound was heard and terrifying energy exploded. Fortunately, this was an ancient ruin. All the surrounding buildings had runes on the ground, forming a strong defense. Otherwise, it would have destroyed everything within a 10,000-mile radius. However, even with the array restrictions, the earth shook as if there was an earthquake. Lin Xian did not stop after the sword fell. He seemed to be opening and closing the river, waving the terrifying demonic sword. With a raise of his hand, he could split the void. The white palm trembled and its light dimmed. Even the mysterious runes around it began to disappear. What? He's so strong! King Dubei's face changed drastically. He did not expect Lin Xian's sword chi to be so strong that his merciful palm could not withstand it. No wonder this person could severely injure Qianquan's Sword King. He's really strong. Thinking of this, his face became unusually gloomy. He no longer dared to be careless, and was ready to go all out against Lin Xian. Kill! At this moment, Lin Xian let out a furious roar. Then, terrifying sword ripples surged forward with him as the center. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void was sliced open and could not withstand it at all. On the other side, King Dubei's pupils constricted. In the next moment, he waved his fingers and spat out a thunderous sound wave from his mouth. The sound wave was very strange. It was like a Buddhist scripture. He could not understand it, but it carried a mysterious power. What kind of cultivation technique is this? Lin Xian frowned. He had never encountered such a cultivation technique before, so he was naturally very surprised. However, he soon sneered. So what if it was a miraculous cultivation technique? He would not fear it. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body began to circulate rapidly. Above Lin Xian's long sword, terrifying sword waves appeared. With a slash of his sword, the terrifying sword chi transformed into an eagle that spread its wings and soared into the sky. Carrying a sky full of spiritual energy sword waves and hellfire, it flew forward. Pun! On the other side, King Dabai roared and slapped out with his palms. Two large white palms transformed into two white tigers, charging over at high speed. Boom! Boom! Heaven and earth trembled as the two white tigers were cleaved apart by the sword. King Dabai was sent flying as he coughed up blood. What was going on? How could his sword chi be so powerful? The great Compassion King was sent flying with a horrified look on his face. At this moment, he had the same fear as the Heaven and Earth Sword King. That was because his opponent's sword light was simply too terrifying. It made him feel as if he was facing a peerless almighty, but how could it be possible that his opponent was just a young boy? On the other side, King Duan Yuwang was fighting fiercely with Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing. When he saw this, he frowned. What was going on? How could King Dabi be injured? Could it be that his opponent was so powerful? Thinking of this, his face became extremely gloomy. In the next moment, he said in a deep voice, King Dabi, let's exchange. All right. King Dabi nodded. Although the exchange of opponents showed that he was no match for Lin Xian, he had lost face. However, he could not care less. If he continued to fight, he was afraid that he would be seriously injured or end up like the Heaven and Earth Sword King. He did not want that to happen, so he decisively exchanged opponents. After King Duan Yunwang arrived, he immediately used his ultimate skill. Duan Yunwang's hand? He reached out with one hand and slapped Lin Xian viciously with a frighteningly large palm. On the palm, there was a colorless light shining like a rainbow. Boom! When the palm landed, the air was directly blasted apart, and an extremely dark black hole appeared. Not only that, but there was also an endless fire burning around it. The terrifying temperature caused the entire space to distort. Seeing this, Lu Fei and Duan Qingqing's faces changed. What kind of divine ability was this? It was so terrifying. Fortunately, the other party did not use it on them before, or the two of them would definitely be under great pressure. Lin Xian furrowed his brows as well. His opponent's palm was absolutely terrifying. Even he could feel a scorching aura surging in his direction. Most likely, an ordinary almighty would have been reduced to ashes under this palm. Therefore, Lin Xian did not take it head-on. He tore the void and used the Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps. He even disappeared on the spot and appeared in another place. Boom! The place where he was originally standing was smashed to pieces, but King Duan Yunwang did not give up. He directly used the cloud-breaking palm continuously, striking out terrifying palm shadows one after another, chasing after Lin Xian. Humph! Seeing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly and directly used the Dragon Sword Realm to envelop his opponent. Refined for me! He shouted loudly and also entered the Dragon Sword Realm. The Dragon Sword Realm bloomed with light, and countless sharp auras swept across heaven and earth. Terrifying killing intent permeated in all directions, causing one's scalp to go numb. Some sword chi overflowed and directly pierced through the opponent's 5-colored palm. Then, it turned into countless fragments, and scattered on the ground. Ah! Boom! King Duan Yunwang screamed as his fingers bled. His face was incomparably ferocious. His opponent had actually broken through his ultimate move. How was this possible? In the next moment, he roared and also used his king's domain. Suddenly, a 5-colored king's domain appeared and contended with the Dragon Sword Realm. The two collided, and the void shattered. Terrifying energy swept in all directions. The surrounding spiritual energy was instantly sucked dry. Not only that, King Duan Yunwang stretched out his palm and merged his domain with his palm. In the next moment, he stretched out his palm again and grabbed over. Lin Xian used the demonic sword and drew a mysterious trajectory. Suddenly, the power of lightning appeared on his body, and then he turned into a lightning figure and quickly rushed out. Wild Thunder Heavenly Eagle! The sword slashed down, and sword light instantly flashed. The eagle flew up. This sword was too fast. It was so fast that no one could react in time. Sure enough, just as he slashed out with his sword, King Duan Yunwang screamed in pain. His palm bled again, and it was even split in half. Not only that, the Wild Thunder Eagle exploded first, and the terrifying power of lightning enveloped his opponent. This caused the sky and earth to be completely pierced through by lightning. Boom! Boom! When the lightning descended, King Duan Yunwang was in a very sorry state. His body was charred black, and many parts of his body were injured. A terrifying wound had appeared on his palm. He probably wouldn't recover for a while. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Whether it was Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, the Qianquan Sword King, or the Great Compassion King. They looked at Lin Xian with fear in their eyes. Was this a human? Was this a young man? How could there be such a terrifying young man? They didn't dare to imagine. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.